got skill?
Trying to work out what that is still really. I've had lots of hobbies, but very bored. Still stuff, oil stuff.
Oh, really?
Then 5 minutes later.
There's a name for that actually. Andrea studies trauma.
Yes. Yeah. I've done it. I need to speak to Andrea. Yeah. I'm just trying to work that all out. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll
I do. We need to.
What's the time? Okay, so I had to cut that screen because that's a great conversation. Guys, we've been lied to about the Earth being a globe. We can't travel to space. Space is fake. It's all CGI. Disney. NASA is just Disney for adults. Take a flyer. Free your mind. Gravity is a hoax.
You got flyers?
Yeah.
Free?
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. Thanks.
Take one for a friend. Take one for a friend. And take this one on the electromagnetic universe.
Oh, yeah?
It's electromagnetic.
That's lovely.
All right. Take a flyer. Earth is not a globe. Take a flyer, mate. Earth is not a globe. Hi. Earth is not a spinning rock. Rocks don't float. Outer space, the vacuum of space is fake. Take a flyer. The vacuum of space is fake. NASA is Disney for adults. NASA is Disney for adults. NASA fake space. The Earth, nor is it a spinning globe. Earth is not a globe. Earth is not a globe. That's not flat Earth, and it's not a globe. No globo.
What is it though?
It's electromagnetic. It's a torus. It's an energy system, but we're inside. We are the center of the universe. Earth is the center of the universe, and you are the center of the center of the universe. Each one of you. Each one of us is the spark of God. God walks inside each of us, not out there, and the earth is small, and we live on the sea is level. The sea is level.
What's your YouTube?
My YouTube channel is on there. It's called Trinity 4. Take my flyer.
How many viewers?
It's on there.
Thank you, man.
It's written down there. See down there?
Yes, I see. 24.
Trinity 4, man. We are the Trinity. No globo. Globo, the water will fall off. Water is always level. Water is always level. You cannot live underneath a ball. Hello.
Right.
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good.
Good. You cannot live underneath a ball. Well, it's flat.
Have you ever got a boat and sailed in one direction?
Yes.
Like, what happens when you go in one direction?
Well, you see, because we think that the compasses are pointing to north, yes, then that north might be the center of our Earth. Then you can go around it. I could put a big magnet in the center of Canterbury and always be pointing north and travel east or west around Canterbury. And we do the same with our navigation on the waters of the Earth. All, by the way, we've never been underneath the globe. We've never traveled underneath the globe. No plane, no one has been under globo. The Earth is not a globe. The Earth is flat. All right. Water is level. The water is level. Earth is flat. The government wants you to believe that you evolved from monkeys, from apes. Evolution is a lie. You are created perfect. You are created perfect by the Creator. The Creator resides within each of us. The Creator is inside you. You are the essence of God. But you deny that essence because you have been divided from yourself and from your Creator. Free your mind and realize the lie. We never went to the moon. And the law of thermodynamics demands that we should be in a pressurized system. that it should be enclosed. If you puncture the ball, if you puncture the deodorant can, you lose pressure immediately. All right, have a nice day. You're welcome. Bonjour. My French is very weak. Very weak. Earth is not a spinning rock. We do not live on the outside of a spinning rock. Nothing in nature puts its fruit on the outside of the skin. The tree, the vegetable, the fruit, all has a skin with the fruit on the inside. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
You're
You
welcome.
too.
The fruit is always contained in nature. We are contained. We are live in an enclosure that NASA and rockets cannot escape. Gravity is a hoax. It's all buoyancy and density in this medium. Gravity is a hoax designed to make you think that people can walk upside down and that we can evolve from a big bang. Ryan? You're welcome. Evolution is a lie. Evolution is a lie, friend, designed to demean God and to demean you. God is within each of us. You do not need outer authority. You do not need higher authority. You are the highest authority here. Show honor to God, but you are the highest authority. Hello, little girl. You are the highest authority here. There should be no higher than you. You should not give away your consent, your authority to governments. Hi. How are you?
I'm fine.
Would you like my flyer? Some information? Electromagnetic universe.
Okay.
We live in an electromagnetic universe. Don't believe the Darwin stuff, and don't believe the stuff that says that you come from monkeys or that Big Bang created the universe. God
We
created
is not
this.
you speak not
Very good English.
Oh,
I'm sure she
no,
understands.
I'm French.
Yes, oui, oui. Bonjour, I think. My French is very
Yes.
bad. Bonjour. Have a nice day. Bye bye. Au revoir. So, there you go. Earth is not a spinning ball. We cannot live on the outside of a ball. You cannot be a monkey. Evolve. You cannot be a monkey. Evolve. Monkeys do not become man. That's a disgrace to believe that monkeys became man. And before there were monkeys, there were fish. This is nonsense. God created us perfect. Hope you're enjoying my little rant. I'm not getting much in the chat. But, I appreciate all the support today. Hi guys. I got a different flyer you might enjoy. One moment. Take you want this? One moment. I got another flyer. I'm really getting on with my flyers today and my voice. Let's go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We are French. We don't understand.
That's okay.
What you
But
say.
read you can maybe read it. Try
Okay,
and look it up.
I don't understand what is right here.
Just it's not
It's a plate.
Not a globe, not a plate. No.
What?
It's enclosed. It's got a roof. Yeah, 100 kilometers
Yes.
is a roof. We can't get out. We can't get out. Density. And its buoyancy, real density of a thing will determine if it goes up like a helium balloon or hot air balloon or go down like a lead balloon. It'll go down. But the sea is a level. From England to France, one sea level. No curve.
Ouais.
No curve.
Yes.
The ship is not going down and coming back up. It's all a level. The same with the plane. Plane for 10 hours will fly level.
What about this concrete isn't level? It's like-
This is not level, but this is built like that. But the thing is that if you travel from, I just drove over from Western Superman. It's on the west coast of this country, Western Superman, just down from Cardiff. You know? And you drive through over the Mendips, which are about 300, 400 meters above sea level. It's the same sea level in the west coast as it is here on this coast. Same sea level.
Why would you, when you look over a horizon, you don't see the entire Earth?
Because your eyesight.
hello.
So
What channel YouTube?
channel
YouTube
is on there. It says Trinity 4.
Okay, thank you. Sub.
All right, you sub. Yeah, cool. You go ahead. So bye bye. Sorry, it threw me a little bit there. So we say it's a topographical surface that we live on, right? So it's got mountains, of course, but it's got the same sea level.
Oh yeah.
Did I make that point?
Yes.
So there's other things that you got to think about, right? Is that how is water sitting on the underside, clinging to the underside of a ball? What force is holding that?
I'm not that good at that. You're good at that.
But you are.
Gravity.
Let me tell you. Yeah.
From the
But-
center, yeah.
Yeah. But you were taught that this gravity is when you're in kids. They say, oh look, when I drop something, that's gravity. But they don't tell you that they picked it up first. And when they picked it up, they gave it force, equal and opposite reactions. You know about that. So the higher I lift that bottle in your hand, the higher I throw it, the harder it's going to hit the floor when it comes back down. So that's simply
What
about
happens
me
in space
giving
if you
it
pick
energy
something up?
and take it out of its equilibrium. So if it's in balance, it's sitting there, right? And it's not going anywhere. But the moment you lift it up, but then I let go of the helium balloon and bush, up it goes. And that's not being held by gravity, but they say at about 100, 200,000 feet, oh, gravity's going to reach up and hold on to it there. No, we say that if there
I
was
think it's more about air pressure.
Yeah, but how do you get pressure? Thermodynamics, have you studied that?
Yes.
So second law of thermodynamics is that to have pressure and a pressure gradient, you must contain it. That drink
Oh,
of
yeah.
yours, if it's got any fizz or whatever, the moment you break the seal, psh, that's the equalization, high to low. That's what we understand. So why not this high pressure system that we're in, because it's already 1 bar here, why not is that not going into space and being sucked into a vacuum? To create a vacuum chamber on Earth, we have to build it with 8 feet thick walls.
Oh, yeah.
Why? Because it's such a powerful force. And our vacuum chamber that NASA has is many orders of magnitude weaker than the atmosphere, the vacuum they tell us out there.
Okay.
And here's the thing, they never put a man in a spacesuit and got him to go in a vacuum chamber. Never. Go and look for that yourself. And every satellite you think about,
So I'm getting cold.
when you think about satellites, go and Google them and see that every satellite is a photograph. I mean a painting.
Oh, it's crazy. Thank you.
All right. I'm so grateful you came down. Yeah. What's the time? Okay. Cool. I'll probably do another hour. Okay.
And that. And yeah, we'll take.
Well, writing.
Yeah, I'll comment. And,
Oh my God. Listen. Alrighty. Smiling.
Yes, I'm part of you.
What's the curvature formula for Earth? The globe. Do you know it? You don't know it, do you? Nobody knows the curvature formula for Earth. If you live on a globe, if you believe that, bring me the curvature formula and let's go test it. Isn't that what good science is all about? Testing? You can't just hypothesize. You sound like a theorist or a theologist. You might as well belong to a religion. If you believe in gravity, I'm afraid you belong to a religion called Gravitonia. And Gravitonians believe that because something falls to the floor, not a helium balloon of course, but when something falls to the floor, that now magically means that things are going to be attracted to the underside of a very large ball. Well, let me tell you, that's all poppycock. None of that can be demonstrated physically. You merely have to believe that you can live on a spinning stone and that it's balanced on nothing but time and space. Yes, time and space is all we need in this religion to believe that balls can float and that giant balls of gas can coalesce and float around each other. Have you never let one go in a lift? Have you never let one go in a lift? The air spreads around the lift in an instant. Why? Because gas will always move and see gets balance. I didn't say that right, but I'm sure the brainiacs of science will remind me. So this is Canterbury, and I've had a pretty fun day, and some really good conversations. They've been split into a few different streams. I noticed some people in official government sniffing around earlier, but I haven't heard back from them. Heard anything from them. Feels weird without a chat. I don't seem to have a chat. That's good. there. So believe in gravity. Can you get a flyer?
No, thank you.
All right. The French have been very receptive today, I have to say. The French youngsters have been quite a joy. They're far more open, I think, than the English children.
Thank you.
I mean, it may be something to do with being on holiday. Earth is not a spinning ball. We've been lied to. NASA do not go to space. It's all CGI. It's all done in a stage, in a swimming pool. They do the spacewalk.
Yeah, you're capping, bro.
Thanks, man. Have a
What's your
good day.
YouTube channel?
It's on there, Trinity 4. It's on that flyer. All right. Earth is not a spinning rock, friends. I know it's hard to hear.
Don't even start.
But gravity is an illusion designed to contain the mind. It's like a religion, a belief in falling things creating balls. How do falling things create balls? How does mass attract mass? Can we prove that? Can we prove mass attracting mass? Oh, it's hard to hear. I'll spare these ladies the diatribe.
Oh, the chain.
Hello there.
Hello.
Hello, ladies. Have a nice day. Earth is not a spinning rock. We've been lied to about space. NASA faked the moon landings and everything in since then. It's all CGI, just like Sandra Bullock went to space in the movie Gravity. It's all done in a Hollywood studio. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. I can't remember the rest of it. But if you believe they put a man on the moon, man on the moon. Have a nice day. Ma'am, some information for you. Some information, ma'am. Information for you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Have a nice day. And if you believe they put a man on the moon, man on the moon. And if you believe,
Thank you very much.
all right. What is they saying? Newton got beaten by the apple good. When the apple falls, no one thinks about how it got up there. Now it's seeking equilibrium. It'll fall to the bucket of water. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. And if you believe they put a man on the moon, man on the moon. And if you believe,
Thank you.
then nothing is cool. I can't remember that. I got a bit of a chat now. Thank you. Thanks, honey. It's been hard to keep the stream going today. Hey man, can I give you some information? And if you believe they put a man on the moon, man on the moon. Cheers. Singing might be a good way of attracting people to take my flyer. Have a nice day. Flyer for you, young lady? There you go, sir. And if you believe, na 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 na, man on the moon. I need to learn the lyrics. Hey, brother. If you believe, they put a man on the moon.
I've already got one, haven't you?
Oh yeah, sorry, man. And if you believe, they put a man on the moon. Man on the moon. Deacon thought.
Maybe on the way back.
Sorry about that. I really feel like it's weird that the chat's so quiet already. Flyer, information. If you believe they put a man on the moon, man on the moon. Bro, you want this t-shirt? I mean, come on.
Non mais thank you.
Non, prends pas, touche pas.
And if you believe they put a man on the moon. Ah, got it. They faked the moon landings, bro. They faked the moon landings. ISS. Space is fake. I wonder if it's helping. We've got this little sticker in there, maybe.
Just take a photograph.
Please, help yourself. Get as close as you want so you've got the highest resolution possible. Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, I had a bigger bottle of water with me, but I left it in the car on purpose, thinking, oh, I probably won't need it so much, but that's weird. It feels like I'm talking to myself today. You know. I might get some questions, but let's see. Some information. Yeah, I'd say this might be a little ambiguous.
I would understand you to be an atheist, just.
No.
You're not an atheist. So how does it tie in with your...
My understanding of things is that
Yeah.
God, or whatever God is, the source of this emanation, because there's something living, there's something conscious here. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yes, yes.
And that something is a loving, all-knowing, all-encompassing entity. We can call it God.
Why would we have it so wrong, though?
By
About the-
design.
about the earth.
By design.
By design, what,
Yes.
politically, you mean? By design, religiously?
Yeah. I think that the religious houses have a lot to answer for. All roads may lead to Rome, I'm not sure. But the Vatican seems to have its fingers in so many pies.
Well, yes.
So
The church always did.
And then when you look into secret societies and all this sort of occulted stuff that goes on, it does seem like there's a steering or guiding hand, dark or intentional. A part of God's intention, if you like, to have dark and light rub against each other, to create that frisson, to create that experience, to give you the opportunity to be tested in the mortal manner that you are now. But then eventually, once you finish with this mortal incarnation, this avatar, return to that source, whether there's 7 levels of it, like some
But
people
what's the
say.
most important thing for you in our lives here, would you
Well,
say?
I would say that if we understood from whence we came, we would behave in a way that honoured that.
If for people that don't or have trouble or difficulties with that, would the criteria really be, do you think, possibly so much not understood or misunderstood that the best you can do is possibly have empathy, compassion and kindness,
Yes.
not worry too much about
Yes.
other stuff?
Yes.
Would that supersede it? Whether even
I think to have a good life and to not be so
Yeah.
stressed about what's
Yeah.
going on out there. But for me personally, I feel this calling that evil prospers when good men do nothing.
yes,
And I'm of the view that the evil controls the hearts and minds of most men today
right.
in the world. And so it is with, not that I'm some Puritan or have a perfect
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
but I feel like the compulsion to go out and express that people need to do better or wake up
Yes,
so
of
that they
course.
realize who they are,
Yeah.
because it is in the actions of the small from within each individual that this system will heal itself. Not by more tinkering from external things. It's a little bit like putting a skin cream on a problem that's going on inside your body. It's not going to help at all. You need to heal it from within. And the body of God, or Christ, as some say, is you. And you need to heal from within. Each of us needs to heal from within if this world is ever to kind of move into the light or the loving ideal that so many people would claim that should be our birthright. But perhaps it's only through the aegis of experience that a ship's captain becomes a true captain. He gets his license once he's done the night sailing and the storms and the difficult harbors and things like that. That's where life experience comes in, and you have this
Where
experience
do you
to become.
think the negative or evil comes from?
So I think that God is all-encompassing. So it must be within the belly of God, if you like. That just in the same way as your body has a dark and you have a light and a
The
dark
yin and the
side,
yang,
yin
so
and
to
the yang.
speak. So to speak.
Exactly,
So to
and
speak.
and the night and the day, and the winter and the summer. All of these dualisms are part of the way we see
Do you
nature.
see God as an energy more than anything else?
Yes.
Just an energy.
Yeah. I mean, like it could just be a library, an energy,
Could be
a library, just like a repository of wonderful knowledge. But I had an experience of ayahuasca in 2015, and I was an atheist at the point. And when I came back, I knew I'd been close to God. Not that I'd met God, but that I'd seen my higher self, and I'd been in the vibration of such love that I knew this is where I was given this information.
Where was that?
Where was that? In Johannesburg in 2015.
Johannesburg, yes.
A friend of mine who'd been in the Himalayas for 20 years,
Yeah.
he'd come across this and introduced me to it, and I did it this one time, and it changed my life because it gave me the insight that, gosh, we do come from something that's eternal, unquenchable in its power, and all-loving. That's what we come from, and there is no hell and damnation necessarily. But I think that the dark and the light have to coexist in the same way that the night and the day have to coexist in this sphere. Right now, maybe it's 1,000 years of Satan, as some people say, that there is this sort of dark, controlling element. It's not a light and loving place. It's a slave system.
There's still, there are two things perhaps in life that are perhaps afflicts humankind, one could say, in an unfair way. That would be for people who do acknowledge that evil exists, and also the other thing being mental illness, because that takes away your choice and decision making, doesn't it?
Yes. So if I was really evil, I know that I need to get to you in your first 7 years of your life. I need to find some way of interfering with your ship so that when you sail out of harbor, it's damaged in ways that you will never realize and that will send you off course no matter what you do. And this is why I think we end up, because we're energetic beings, our energies get trapped in our body. And over years, they manifest into dis-ease and we become, mentally unwell or whatever. And I think this is designed I'm certain now, having been a sort of believer of the system and worked for the government and so on, I am now fairly certain that there is intent. It's not being done by a mistake. Some people say it's simply, mankind getting crazy with his health and safety regulations just because, you've got fearful people in the health and safety department and lawyers who will sue. And so you end up with a terribly health and safety conscious environment where people are telling each other off all of the time. So it could simply be that. But I'm fairly sure that there's intent behind the injuring, because I've seen too much evidence of there being poisons in food and water and in this medicine kind of program and so on.
Is that not people's greed with their agenda of commercial?
Yes, it could be put down to the 7 deadly sins
rather than anything else.
It could be that, but you see, if I put 10 puppies in a cage and I only feed them 3 or 4 puppies worth of food every day, there's going to be a hierarchy amongst them. So it's very easy to see how we've been put into some sort of mind control program where we are in a hierarchical system of either educated, moneyed, got lack, power, and all of these sorts of things. So the 7 deadly sins of greed and avarice and all this start to get played off against each other. But if you were brought into a system that was loving, that said, oh, we are all equal here, and you are an emissary of God, you're an emissary of God, and you're here to, rise in your soul journey, and we're going to work together on that, and you won't have lack. You can just go and experience this beautiful world that we have, go and travel it, go and enjoy it, sail it and fly it and do all these things, Wow, that would be a very different, maybe a very different kind of way of raising our children, rather than this, you come from monkeys, you're insignificant. Darwinism, which I taught myself, I was a Darwinist along the way. And now I know it's not Darwin, you're creative.
Dominoes,
That God might be you.
I believe.
Is that way?
I think that God might be us.
What's
We
going
might
on?
actually be
Is
God.
it? Am I right to film?
You go ahead, brother. I'm filming live on YouTube.
Yeah, can I say hello?
You can.
My name's Doug, this is my mate Steve, we're here from work. What's going on? Is he not spinning, huh?
Earth is not spinning. We can't prove it to be spinning.
Are you a flat earth or not?
Well, the flat Earth is a loaded term. That's like a psyop term. People think of a pancake or a pizza in space, whereas we say that dynamics demands that we have to be enclosed.
In space?
Pardon me?
If I just ask one question up there.
The pancake in space.
How are they
is not-
moving up there? Is that...
That's wind. And how's the wind created? The wind is created by pressure, high and low pressure. So inside of a system, you can have gradients and movements, and it's a big system, right?
Okay.
So we know that there's a pressure gradient from here up The helium balloon will go up and it will find its level, and it will become it will balance out or become buoyant at its level, just the same way as the football pushed underwater will rise back up again violently and then find its settling point on the surface of that water. That's how all things work, is they either go up or down depending on the medium that they're in and the density or the mass of that thing. So as far as we're concerned, it's no problem with the heat. You create a bit of heat, yes, you'll get some wind moving from one place to another. You heat up the sea over there, and it pulls up water, and it has rain. But all of that, second law of thermodynamics says you must contain it. If you puncture the deodorant can or the football,
What science college did you go to?
I didn't go to science college.
I'll see you later on then, mate. See you in a minute.
Do you think I need more indoctrination if I was in a religious college? Goes like that. Yeah, so hi, I'm Dave. I have a YouTube channel, Trinity 4.
I'm sorry, the Earth is round.
Okay, like a pizza or a table. I've got a round table.
No, it's spherical.
Oh, spherical, you mean. What's the curvature?
Well, it's an oblong.
Okay, what's the curvature formula for that?
4/3 pi r squared.
No, I need a, like, so if you live on
Listen,
on
the
a
Earth
ball,
is spherical, end of.
You just went like this, which is not spherical, that's round.
And it's spinning.
So, okay,
And the moon goes around us, and we go around the sun.
so what is the formula for the curvature of the ball?
I don't know.
Why didn't we get taught that? Because when I learned it 8 years ago, I was like, shit, hold on a minute. I grew up by the sea. I've seen a lot of things in my lifetime.
You've
that kill
been
that
taught a
formula.
lot of nonsense.
All of us.
Somebody's indoctrinated you with this rubbish. It's rubbish.
So you weren't indoctrinated.
This is rubbish.
I believe that I was indoctrinated from junior school onwards.
I'm a senior engineer from aerospace, and I understand all this.
What is it?
And
you
you've
do?
been misled.
Okay, well, but you don't. You're a senior engineer at aerospace, but don't know the curvature formula. If you're building aerospace designs, and by the way, we've got documents from NASA saying we're building craft over a non-moving flat surface. That's what NASA's documents say.
You're talking nonsense, man.
But you still don't know the curvature
You're
formula.
talking nonsense. Okay. You go up in an aircraft, you can see the curvature.
And Neil deGrasse Tyson will tell you that from a plane you're not nearly high enough, that even Baumgartner, the Red Bull jump, wasn't high enough. In fact, when he jumps out of his cupola, you
can
see
go
a flat
up
horizon.
They used to go up in RAF Lightnings where it got dark and you can see the curvature. They've been to the Earth and photographed the Earth.
You know what a fisheye lens is?
Yes.
Okay. So the fisheye lens is often used to kind of create that roundness, but other guys, private guys, have taken up weather balloons to 120,000 feet and they find it to be level.
Nonsense. Utter nonsense.
I know pilots
Bullshit.
who say the same.
Bullshit.
Well, it's only because
You are deluded.
Okay, you can say that. But I know that this is a belief.
You are utterly deluded. And
Gravity,
this delusion.
gravity is a belief.
That was very interesting.
No, you're welcome. Take my flyer.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice day. So, well, you win some. You win some. How you guys doing in the chat? I've got some people coming up. Earth is not a spinning ball. Rocks don't float. We live on a flat plane inside a container. Gravity is a belief system. If you believe in gravity, you are entrapped in a religion. You are caught in a religion. Did you guys get one already? You did. Of course you did. Thanks for being so polite. Nice to see that. Water will not run uphill. Water will run down this hill. Everybody knows that. You don't even have to be very intelligent. The water runs downhill and will pool until it spills into the next lake. And every one of those lakes will be level and horizontal. We say horizontal, which means flat and level. God is within you. You are the emanation of the Creator. You are God's child. You are the temple of God. And there should be no master.
Thank you.
There should be no one telling you to wear masks. No one tells you to wear a mask. No one is your master. If I can tell you to wear a mask, I am your master. And if you listen, then you are my slave. You are my slave. And you are a slave to the government who made you stay at home in 2020. The governments of the world are all tied together and they locked you down. Why? Because you have been curtailed and enslaved. Have a nice day.
We have exams.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Oh, now you're being so rude? I can be as loud as I like. There's no need to be so rude. There's no need to be so rude.
brain if you fucking have one.
Way! There you go. An evolved monkey speaks.
No, thank you.
Oh, you think you evolved from monkeys? And you think you're walking on the underside of a
Já na
ball?
vás klidně můžu takhle mluvit. A rozumíte mi? Piču, že?
What?
Yeah.
No, well, whatever. But you don't come and live on a spinning ball. You do not live on a spinning rock, friends. Earth is flat.
Where do I live?
Earth
Tell
is
me.
flat.
Earth is flat.
Earth is flat.
For real?
For
Are
real.
you for real right now?
For real.
Like real?
Water's level.
Do you have a
Water is
brain?
level.
Do you
You
have a
do
brain?
not
Or
flag.
do you have some
I got
intelligence,
pilot
some
friends.
IQ? Like,
I got pilot
do you know
friends
what
who
are you
tell me
talking
this
about? Like,
curvature is a
oh
lie.
my fucking god, you Jesus.
What is the formula for curvature? Do you even know it?
Just shut the
What's
fuck
the
up.
formula
Oh my
for
God.
curvature? I'm affecting you because your religion is under attack. Your belief system that you can live on the side of a spinning rock. That's poppycock. That's complete poppycock. You cannot live on the side of a ball, and rivers will not run uphill. They will not run up the side of a ball. But you rely on gravity. You rely on the imaginary force of gravity, like a religious believer who thinks that gravity answers all the questions of how you can walk underneath a ball. That's up and down. Well done, genius. You are dense in this environment. You are dense in this environment. Jump in a pool. Wise guy, jump in a pool. Where's gravity gone? Let go of the helium balloon. Where's gravity gone? Your gravity is nothing but a theory, a theology, a belief system. And you are all asleep, being led like sheep. Like sheep you are, following the leader, brainwashed from childhood. Brainwashed from childhood you have been. And I'm telling you now, it's so easy to prove that the earth is not spinning and that the waters are not running downhill and coming back the other side. Gravity is a hoax designed to keep you in a small prison mind. Have a flyer instead. Have a flyer. I'll give you a sticker instead. Thanks. Have a nice day. Cheers. Yeah.
New material.
Yeah.
Who do you think's doing it? I'm not quite down the flat earth rabbit hole. I've had a look around.
Like I say to people, like the
I'm
same as
central bank
religion.
digital currencies, media, things like this.
Yeah.
You know, technology. I'm a farmer. I find the rise of conditioning very scary in society.
Yeah.
If I'm going along with you, I accept your evidence. What do you think's happening?
What I think
People who refuse to look at anything. What's going on?
Well, I think in the same way that the religions were designed 1,000 or 2,000 years ago, they were designed to control people. The same is true today with this science. Is designed to control people. The why and the specifics of that, it's hard to be certain because I'm not the one designing the lie.
Okay.
But I believe intrinsically that it's about controlling, first of all, your mind, with that, perhaps your body, because you will do things and be part of things that you might otherwise not have done had it not been for the conditioning of your mind.
Behaviors and
Yeah,
I'm with you.
and how we go to war with each other and a whole raft of other things, put masks on our faces, etc. So we do this because we've been conditioned through the mind, through the television, through the eyes, through the ears. And it says in like the Bible, not that I'm pushing the Bible, but it says but the disciples
I'm an atheist,
are the...
but it's a good message. It's
I was
fine.
an atheist 8 years ago until I found this stuff.
I stay agnostic, but sure, yeah.
So I say that the disciples are your 12 disciplines, and that's the disciplines of the eyes and the ears and so on. And we have to be wise about the information that we take on. But unfortunately, when we're 5, 6, 7 years old, everyone's pushing dinosaurs and globes and all this sort of shit on us. So we have no choice. The same as if you were brought up in a Catholic family. You're either going to be like a total Catholic or someone who just completely hates Catholicism or whatever, but you're still affected by whatever indoctrination that you were given at that point. So
Because reality is the same, but it's the information you're given is what
It's
your
a lie.
reality you think is.
It's a program.
That
I
makes
grew up
sense.
in South Africa in the apartheid era, and
Gotcha.
we were all given a program that people from the outside could see was a program, but from within it doesn't seem like that, right? And that's the same for me now. In the last 8 years, stopped watching TV and taking on the programming, and I see how people are being We have been. We all will
Well,
have been.
so recently, I'm 22. What I've seen in 4 years, it's like, it's so blatant. I mean, look, I've got to go shopping, but I stay agnostic to God. I stay agnostic to your message because I don't trust the state. You can't trust objective supply of science all the time now. It's not the world we live in.
Did I give you my phone?
That would be very cool.
You know what? Because on here I've got an app. Your phone will be able to pick that up. There's an app called Flat Earth, Sun and Moon Zodiac app, and they put out a video every single day. That's like a really good bit of evidence that it's like shit. You watch that, like the guy who runs it says, you watch that for 2 weeks, and you will struggle to deny the reality that we have been lied to about where we are. So then we try and find out the why and the how, and who did it.
See, because that's so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
It really is, because I've had to realise a lot recently, and fundamentally, objective information, if I can make my own mind up about it, I'm supplied with it.
It must be your own. It has to be. You have to be the master of your own mind, body, and soul. So I'm not telling people to believe what I say. Just go out and do the research for yourself, so that you can work it out. Because I don't trust external sources for my information. If I can't touch it, feel it, test it myself, I'm going to hold it in the I'm not sure camp and not say this is exactly what it is. Same with the flat Earth model. I don't have this is exactly how it works and so on, because I'm not sure.
A healthy skeptic.
I see the system and I have my own theories that perhaps no one else shares, but I have my own theories rather than saying, no, it has to be this guy. He's like a well-researched flat earther or whatever. I don't. Or same with the religious stuff. It's like I listen to the religious guys, but I don't say, oh well, I have to follow that book and that guy and that whatever. No, it has to be in me because the truth is in your heart. You are your arbiter of your own. What is good? What is not good? Is this right for me? Is it not right for me? So you must be your own master. I'm Dave.
Thank you, Dave. I'm George. I respect you quite a lot for that. Your approach is quite good. So.
Thanks, man.
Thank you very much.
Have a great one.
And yourself.
There you go. That was nice. Can I give you a flyer, sir?
Hey?
Higher resolution. I've got a flyer for you. Share this with your friends.
Okay, thank you.
Earth is not a spinning globe. Earth is flat. The waters are level. We have a roof, a firmament, like it says in the Bible. Anyone who reads the Bible should know that there is a firmament and the earth is still not moving 1,000 miles an hour, like they tell us. Science is designed to mislead the mind, to keep you in a prison, a mental prison. How are you doing? That's dramatic. It affects you that much? It affects you that much? It affects you that much? Earth is flat. Earth is flat. It's your religion that's been attacked. It's your belief system. I know it's hard, but it's your sense of who you are. Your whole sense of identity or non-identity is based in this lie. It's based in the lie, bro. But you don't want that lie to be popped, bad or not. Nightmare or dream. Earth is not a spinning ball. We've been lied to about where we live. The government are lying to us. NASA is a deception. NASA is Disney for adults. NASA is co-funded by Disney. NASA is Disney, and spacewalks are done in a swimming pool. You probably don't know that, but they train in a swimming pool. They train in a swimming pool, man.
Thank you.
They train, you're welcome. They train in a swimming pool. Man, they've never put a man in a spacesuit in a vacuum chamber. Did you know that? Did you know that? Wouldn't you want to test the spacesuit in a vacuum chamber if you were going into a vacuum? Wouldn't you want to test it? Don't you want to test whether they're lying to you about this as well? You know they lied to us over the last few years, right? Okay. In the craziest of times, crazy people will be the sanest around. Folks, some information on where you live. They lied about who we are, where we are, what we live. The lights, the sun and the moon, they're small. It says so in the Quran. It says the sun and the moon are small lights and they move. The earth is not moving. Quran will tell you that. I've spoken to Quran teachers, they tell me the same. The sun and the moon are small. The Christian Bible says the same thing too, but the Christians don't like to hear that. Most Christians deny the Bible and say that no, the Genesis story is wrong. The lights are not small. The lights are not small. Thanks. I think I'm running out of traffic here. I might call it a day. Earth is not a spinning rock. That's another lie from the people that control your world. They control your mind so they can control your avatar. They want to make you believe you evolved from apes and that apes evolved from fish and that a fish with slime. So they want you to think that you came from slime rather than came from a creator. Don't hide from the information. I'm challenging your belief. The religious belief in gravity. Gravity is a deception. It's a lie. I'm going to probably call it time and say, I'll walk out. You guys can, some of you can stay around. Does anyone else? I like this guy. He's at least listening and questions. Yeah. Thanks, Daisy. Ball is bull, right? Yeah. Pushing dirt straight, you don't like it? Yeah, I mean, I found it useful, but I mean, not that I've used the app per se, but I wouldn't knock it. And Dave's a friend. Do I? Let me just put those down. Do I look at the camera? That app is useful for an entry-level thing. I don't subscribe to the Circling Sun. I've heard me my streams today, and I said, the sun is local to the individual person. So to have a single point, it doesn't make sense. So that means that it has to be much higher and further away.
Hello.
I don't believe it's close to the person. And so that doesn't fit with that. But, it's a depiction, and it's not unfair. To say you can't have your own depiction of it. And that is what most people used to say, whether that's a sign or not. Look at most of these guys, they want to fly. Yeah. We've been lied to. I know it's hard in here. Take my flyer.
I don't believe in it.
You don't have to believe in it, my friend. What it is that you have to be able to test it. Science is testable and repeatable, right?
Yeah.
The theory of science is a completely different thing. We could theorize about anything. There are space marvels and whatever. We could theorize about that all day long. I used to. I believed in all the space stuff for many years. Now, I say that if I can't test it, then why should I believe it? Other than if I'm in a belief system, a religion.
Why don't you test it?
I've tried to. So I've looked at water for curvature. There's a formula for curvature over water, and that's non-existent when you look at it. It's like you live on a ball. A ball is never flat. It's meant to have bending in every direction all of the time. That's what a football looks like, right? It's going to be the same even though it's 24,000-mile circumference football. It's still going to be round and bending everywhere. And in reality, this relativity thing that they teach you when you're young, and I was taught the same and believe the same, is that relativity puts everybody on top and everyone else is below you. Well, that can't be right in reality. If everybody was on a ball, right? How could everybody be on top? There have to be people in South America, South Africa, and places like that, and they're on the side. And I recently flew from South Africa to London, and that's a quarter of the way around the globe. So my up in South Africa was there, and now I'm flown to London, and I'm here. And it's like my body didn't tell me that. The gyroscope in the plane didn't tell me that. The spirit level that I put on the floor of the plane doesn't tell me that. My glass is at slightly tipped because the plane is 1.5 degrees nose up the whole flight. I've got pilot friends who say we make no allowance for curvature going down, up, or that the earth is moving underneath us, or any of those things. Our training manual says the same. Fly as though the earth is not moving and that it's flat. That's how you fly. but you fly this great circle route and this and that. That's meant to mean, oh, we live on a globe. So I can
I'm
assure
a bit
you.
late for something at the moment.
But test it for yourself. I'm not going to prove it to you. You've got to test it for yourself and be willing to acknowledge that possibly we've been lied to by the authorities. And that doesn't mean your teacher's lying. It just means that your teacher believed the lie super well, just like a preacher of any religion that you don't care for. Those preachers are good people who believe the lie that their parents taught them, or the story that they tell. It may not be a lie. The story that their parents taught them of their belief system. And we just go along with that. And I did for 47 years. I got children out of university who went through the same. I told them we were evolved from monkeys. Bullshit. You were created perfect by the Creator. You are, in fact, the essence of the Creator. I say to people, the temple of God is each of us. No religion. That you are the emissary of God, whatever God is. You've got one.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a nice life.
Have a good day. I think she was here.
Thank you.
Which earth is fake?
Hey,
It's amazing.
you
You're
looked at
right,
this
no,
before?
I'm just talking to my dad. I'm showing you your stuff.
Okay, ask him if he knows the formula for curvature.
Huh?
Ask him if he knows the formula for curvature on the globe. That's the one that caught me.
I don't know if he knows, but my uncle's a physicist. I'm sure he'd love this stuff.
This is the one that he has to be able to answer. This is what the globe says, is that if you live on a globe, you've got a certain amount of bending in every direction all the time.
Yeah.
That's what a ball is. And so we should be able to measure that. Physics demands you to go, you can hypothesize it's a ball, but until you measure that and say that's the actual physical curvature, you can't say, oh, I've seen a ship go over the edge of the horizon, that means it's a ball. No, go and measure that. If a whole ship went over the horizon at 3 or 4 miles, I should be able to measure that.
So is that that's why the Earth
That was
is
the
flat?
start for me. That was the start.
That was the start.
Yeah, and now when you look at topographical maps,
so that you couldn't measure.
curvature. That curvature doesn't exist, which suggests that sea level
Why
means
does
sea level.
curvature not exist?
Well, if it's not measurable, then it's just a theory.
Measurable by humans. Measurable by you.
Well, if
Measurable by you. If
well-
you can't measure it, that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
well, if a ship is going over the horizon at 5 miles,
Yeah,
whole
but
ship.
if there's a bit of basic physics going on here,
Mm-hmm.
you'll figure out why you can't see that.
it's not about seeing it, it's about measuring. So what we looked at is that when ships have gone over the horizon, we take a powerful camera and we zoom back into that area and bang, that ship comes back into view for another 10 miles.
That's because of our eyesight and how much we can see in the horizon.
So our eyesight, when you're a kid at school, they say that the ship is going over the horizon. There, that's the horizon. Now we've gone to measure that physical horizon, not apparent, physical horizon, and found that it's not there. And that over
Isn't
lake,
that just a difference of perception?
Well, remember, you're asking me all these questions and not wanting to learn because I did believe what you believe. But here's the thing: is that Lake Billikal is famous because it freezes once a year, and it uses an ice rink. Guess what? It's flat for 300 miles. Flat. If we lived on a ball, it should have a visible hump, almost half a mile in the middle. That's according
Really?
according to the spherical geometry. That's not my geometry. That's what the
have you
globe
spoke
believes.
to a physicist? Because you got
Many.
really,
Many, yes.
What, as in conversations like
I've had
when
people-
you had questions, they'd answer and you took their answer instead of.
Why should I take their answer? Again, if you can't
Are
measure it yourself.
Are you religious then?
No.
You're not
If you-
religious.
No. And religion is just another tie to something external. And this idea that we come from evolution, Darwin, Big Bang, which by the way is a Catholic invention. So is the globe, by the way. That we're in a heliocentric system. This is a diminution of whatever we come from.
I think
And I
it's
believe the
really
religion-
interesting. I think you should just.
I believe the religions are.
If you can't take in, if you like your science, then and you physically
Remember, I
can't
was
take
in
other
that science
physics.
before. I was in that religion before. I was in that same belief system. I believed all that. I raised children through university on that same belief system.
Scott,
So,
yeah,
so what I'm saying is that then we're told that we live on a spinning ball, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, can you point to me the direction we're spinning?
What?
Can you point to me the direction?
What
the
you?
Earth is spinning?
I'm sorry. just because I don't know doesn't mean that
Okay, so
it
you can
doesn't
admit-
exist.
okay,
I just,
but you
I
can
just,
admit that
I
your
just
senses-
not that good at science. That
So
much.
you can admit that your senses can't tell you that you're spinning.
Because we are this small and the Earth
right.
is
Okay,
fucking
we were-
enormous,
yeah. So
and
we were
our
taught-
perception doesn't tell us anything about the real world.
Okay, we were taught that when we were 6, 7 years old. That exact same thing.
That's
that
because
you're
we've
too
had
small and you can't-
incredible developments of incredible scientists over the years.
And
Who
yet they
probably,
haven't.
if you have any questions about the Earth or any questions, they probably say this is probably
Well, I
why.
met with- I
This
met-
is probably
okay.
why the lake is like this. This is probably why this.
Why?
But people like you
But
don't.
like
It
might
goes
be
straight
flat?
past you.
Maybe quite flat. People like me people that are asking questions. I met with ESA. Do you know what ESA is?
No, I
the
don't know what
European
ESA
Space
is.
Agency. I met with the European Space Agency and a young lady, maybe 5 or 10 years older than you, who worked for ESA. I asked her, what is your best proof that the Earth is spinning? And her answer was, the sun moving over my head. And it's like, that's it? Because like Einstein said, there will be no optical experiment that we can do on Earth that will prove that we're moving.
Just because we
And
can't,
so-
but
yeah,
we've got tons of evidence to prove that it is moving.
Such as?
Tons of
Okay.
evidence. We got
Give me
s-
1 ton. Just give me 1
What? So
ton.
okay, what about whoever's outside of the Earth, like people who astronauts?
No,
they
no, no,
just
no,
didn't
no, no,
exist.
no. I'm questioning whether they exist or whether they're out there.
Right.
You know that a spaceman.
That is
a
very
spaceman-
skeptical. You're
this
very
is-
skeptical
Well,
man,
well, I
aren't you?
used to believe in the moon landings,
Question
but here's
pretty much everything.
I know it's hard to hear, but a man has never been put in a spacesuit in a vacuum chamber. Now, an intelligent mind would probably not push away, but I think you're probably going to want to, that if you were going to outer space, you would go into a vacuum chamber and test that your suit was impervious to that harsh environment. But they've never done that. And they tried once in the 1960s, and they got to a partial vacuum and had to pull a man out because his tongue was boiling. He nearly died. And actually, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, men on a spacewalk nearly died because they drowned in their helmets. Why? Because they're doing it in a swimming pool. Because they're doing it in a
Completely
swimming
right.
pool. Was that we see them? We see them.
Complete believer in the full Earth is a round ball theory, and it has sobered me up to see what NASA is actually doing. If you look at the spacewalks, they're all underwater.
There's bubbles rising
There's
past their
bubbles
helmets
rising.
as they've
Get
admitted
any
to
of
drown.
the moon guys to hold a Bible, right, like the one I'm carrying here.
Astronauts Gone Wild. You check out that video.
You
Check out
ask
that
them
video. Astronauts Gone Wild.
and say, put your hand on the Bible and tell us you've been in space. Tell us you've.
And I'll give you $5,000
Exactly.
to your favorite charity. 10 of them were offered that.
I'm so
None of them do it.
amazed by the science
None of them
and
do it.
how much was produced that these small facts seem so tiny in comparison to the decades of research and studies of
Do you think Jesus
incredibly
walked on
smart
water? Do
people.
you think Jesus walked on water?
I don't think Jesus. I'm
Existed.
not atheist.
Okay, because there's billions of people who believe that, and there's millions or hundreds of thousands of good men and women who teach that, who truly believe that. Does it make it true? No. And just because of the theoretical stuff, which is theory is theology, the theoretical stuff that we can do this, and you've seen it on TV, and there's people you know who work in,
Yeah, but you're just saying
NASA.
there's lies out there, so
The
let's.
world is flat. Why lie about it?
Why lie? That's
It
deeper
proves
down.
that God
That's
is
deep.
real.
Yeah.
It proves that the firmament, you're not
So
looking at
you
the
think
sky.
the entire government and NASA and all that are all
Yeah, they
religious
do.
and
They think
But no,
it's
no.
all
It might be what they call satanic, that it's all designed to usurp God's creation.
I thought you just said you're atheist.
No, I didn't say atheist.
You
but
told
I
me you
didn't
were
say that.
atheist
No, I was not
earlier.
religious. You asked
So-
me if I was religious.
So you're not religious.
I'm not religious, but I think that God is in each of us. Whatever God is,
God
creator,
is
source.
within and without.
Why lie
He's
about
the
it?
totality.
We are God within God.
Yeah.
So
I say it like that.
you're not religious,
Yeah.
but you believe in God and you think that God's.
I know God.
That's when my
ayahuasca.
conversation stops here
That's-
because
well, I
if we
was
discuss
atheist.
science, then yeah.
I was
But
atheist.
the reason why nothing will get into
I have a question for you. As a science believer, and I'm literally working with Elon Musk right now as well. All right.
No way.
So, no, for real. We'll have a chat about that later. All right. So, tell me, is there anything in reality that's separate from anything else?
This isn't a philosophy. What?
Science isn't something
This
you
is-
believe in. It's
No, I'm asking really something practical. Look at any direction right now. Look at pick any look at that sign or anything here. All right. Wherever we're focusing our attention right now, we are literally shifting space, time, reality, just by the mere act of witnessing differently. If you look at the double slit experiments,
Yeah.
do you know the double slit experiment? All right, this was done in the early 50s and it's been replicated since. It showed the wave particle duality, and basically what it was basically you have a gold film and you have photons being shot through two slits, all right? And so what happens is whenever those photons were being shot on the back wall, they would show up like big fat line in the middle, then slightly thinner, then slightly thinner, slightly thinner, that's slightly thinner. That suggests that somehow photons were operating as though a wave function. But what was really weird is the mere act of the scientist observing the experiment or even seeing it on video changed it from being a wave function to a material function. So it became two lines.
2 lines, yeah, that's right.
Proves that everyone is lying. But what
No,
when
no,
a
no,
sci- no,
It
listen, when
doesn't
one
prove everything.
scientist,
It
one
proves
scientist
that
will come
observation
here, one
affects
scientist
material
will come here
reality.
and probably explain it to you. Go, this is probably what this is, and you wouldn't accept it. You
I
would
could
still
if he showed me enough
Well,
evidence,
the
I'd be
amount
open
of
to it.
flat earthers that we've provided full-on evidence to say, you say, something about perception, and say, this is the reason why. You just don't know enough about science, and that's okay. We'll educate, and you won't take it.
We say sea level, don't we?
Yeah, we
The
say
water is completely flat.
The water is level. Fuck.
Water is level.
But none of us know the curvature formula. We say the water is not. All right,
Do you believe man went to the moon?
No, I used to.
So what about the fact that if I shine a laser at the moon, it will bounce off a retroreflector that man put there during the space race, and I can measure the distance to the moon by calculating the time it takes against the speed of light, and I can see pictures of men that people have left there as a memorial to those who lost their life in the early disasters of sending man to the moon.
Have you the example you cited of firing a laser onto the moon and a reflector coming back?
Yeah.
Have you done that?
All right, so
no, because I don't have the equipment.
go up and then
Okay, so you've created a hypothetical idea. I know I've seen the same. I believe that we had a reflector on the moon, and I believe that at Jodrell Bank they could fire a powerful enough laser, and it would.
Because if I grab a telescope, a really powerful one, which myself as a public, I could go get one of those, and I could see the device they put there. And I could see the pictures of these people they put there.
I would like
because
to.
they've lost their life.
I would love to see that for myself. But I believe at this point in time we're told that we could if we had this technology. But I say that it's also possible that if I was tricking you, right, I could give you a telescope, but also put some sort of computer software in there that would overlay exactly at the moment of time when you're pointing at that point. I could overlay that. So trust me when I say I believe we landed on the moon. And then I saw a documentary called A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, and it was footage of them faking the first moon landing, being halfway between Earth and they were in the cupola. You can see it's definitely Armstrong and the other guy. You can see it's definitely them. And when they come back from the moon landing, they were having a press conference, which I'd never seen before in all my life. And I've watched this press conference, and they look dodgy. They look frightened. They look their answers don't make sense. They don't look like men who are like, wow, we just walked on the moon.
Just gone through some of the most difficult situations in their life.
Okay, that's only one. That's only one of many evidences. Do you know that their spacesuit was never tested in a vacuum?
It doesn't need to. That's too difficult as well. At the time, technology was barely advanced. The computers aren't computers. They're wires with metal rings that are magnetized in one direction or the other to produce a 1 or a 0. People strung these computers by hand. They wound them by hand. Like, it would have been more difficult to fake it. But people spent their entire lives. People died for the advancements of man.
I'm sure people died, and I want to take the emotion out of it because I don't just demean that people died. There was a guy, Gus Grissom, I think, and his crew died in their capsule when it caught fire, right? That was a definite tragedy, and I feel for that. But I think that was because he'd hung a lemon on the thing and said, this is a lemon, it's not going to work. It's not working, and Neil Armstrong could never get the lunar lander to work. There's no footage, and it's admitted that he got 40 seconds of flight, and then he had to eject because he couldn't control the lunar lander on Earth, and yet that was unbuilt, but they never fixed that fault. It's the same with the ISS. They never built it on Earth and said, right, here's the pieces, we're going to take it apart and we're going to take it up into space. What if it's all being done in a swimming pool? Because they had the technology back at that time. And I used to believe the moon landings, but you look at that lunar lander under 4K now, and you see that it's cardboard, it's bent, there's rivets missing, it looks like poles, there's no dust on the gold feet, and it's meant to have had a 10,000 pound per foot thruster, which kicked up all the dust. There's no dust on the feet. And then when they leave on the lunar lander, when they leave on the lunar lander, it goes everywhere and it should settle back down. And then when they leave on the lunar lander, a camera pans up and watches the thing go up into the sky. It's like, who did that? Did they leave a cameraman behind on the moon?
No.
And how did they 4K? How did they Bluetooth it over to the thing? They had not that technology.
There wasn't Bluetooth. It's just a standard TV connection.
Also, that's the
that,
exact point. They
Do you
don't
know-
have
do
the
you know-
technology to fake it back then. Have you seen how CGI was back then?
But we don't
didn't
have the
have it.
technology to go to the moon now.
Yeah, but we
we
do.
So we have great
currently in
CGI.
the
We have
process
great
of building a
CGI.
rocket to go
So
to
we
the
have
moon again.
we have great CGI now. So
Yes.
the ability to put Sandra Bullock in space, easy. Gravity. She looked like she was in space, right?
Yes.
So why not?
But they didn't
Why can't
have
I do it
that
for?
then.
Yeah, but they didn't have that.
No, they didn't
How
have that
would you
then.
fake it back then is the thing? Because you're saying, oh, if you look at it now, if you look at it now. But back then, when it was
Yeah.
being live broadcasted to basically the entire world, how would you fake it? They did not have the right levels of technology to fake it then. And also, why would every single individual company that creates rockets, goes into space or the moon or whatever, fake it? Like all agree together to fake it? Because you said that they would
There's
lie
two
about.
questions there. Let me, okay,
No,
whoa,
no,
whoa,
no,
whoa,
no,
whoa,
let me
one at a
continue.
time.
Let me continue.
I can only answer one question.
Yeah, but
at a
that's
time.
fine. You don't
The
need to
first
answer them. I
question
just need to point out you're stupid. So you
So
said
this is
that
ad
people
hominem.
would
This is what they call an
lie.
ad hominem attack when someone feels that they got a weak position. Do you feel like you have a weak position? Because let me assure you that if you've really been to space, then there should be great evidence of that. And yet, 60 years
is
since
great
we
evidence
went,
of that.
60 years since we went, we haven't gone back. And according to NASA, we lost the technology, and it's
Yeah,
a
we did.
difficult process to build it back up
The
again.
thing is
we
that-
haven't put man on the moon again.
but-
And
you're
let me tell
saying
you,
that like
to
it's an
answer your
easy
question about
task.
how did they do it, they had a screen technology used by a guy called Stanley Kubrick. He worked with the CIA with NASA, and they were able to stage it. I can assure you that they
What
had
about the
certain
rest of them?
technology. Most people will admit, if they're not arguing this point, they will admit that the military have technology 10 or 20 years ahead of what we
The
do.
technology they lost, you've got to remember, is the engines. Those engines were built by hand, and each engine was spec'd by engineers.
Yes.
And because nothing was done computerized, everything was done by hand. All this spec, because each engine had
I
to be
believe
done
they were built.
separately,
I believe
they
they were
wrote
built.
down it by
Yes.
hand, and then over time those documents
Okay,
have been lost.
and I believe that the engineers building those things
Yeah.
believed they were building rockets that were going into high Earth orbit or going to the moon. I believe that. However,
where
what happens
did
is
the
the
rocket
rocket
go
the
when it
rocket
took
goes
off?
about 40, 50 miles into the sky, and if you're able to see it from far enough away and watch the guys who do the slow-mo cameras, it's doing a parabola. Now,
Yeah, of
those
course
people who
it
know
is. It has
say,
to get
oh, it has
into
to speed up to get out of the thing, or it's going and landing in the Bermuda Triangle. So there's just another option to keep in your mind is that it's possible to dump this thing in the sea and then put your astronauts in a
Somebody
soundstage.
would have seen it come down.
Oh, well, that's the Bermuda
If you can
Triangle
see
is
it go
huge.
up, yeah, I don't think
No country
If you
would
can see
agree
it go up from many different places, you can also see it come down from many different places. Because you've got to think it's going to be coming down instead of just magically being in the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
So somebody in some country, someone would have seen it.
Yeah,
And there would be
no,
footage of it. There
And
would
Okay,
also,
that's a-
like,
no, that's a fair
no
point. I'd take
country is
that.
going to agree to dump a fully laden rocket into
Fully
the
laden?
sea. No,
What?
because
Laden with what?
with rocket fuel, when you dump it into
It's
the
all
sea,
burnt off like a firework. The firework comes down, it's got nothing left. It's all burnt out, right?
it will still, it will still
although the-
have trace elements in it when it
well,
hits the
Why did
ground.
they spend that much money to send a rocket into the Earth to split it down and say, oh look, we landed on the moon when they didn't?
I
And
know,
how does
they-
that then correlate to the world being flat? Whether we got to the moon or not, I don't get how that correlates to the
And
world
also
being
the
flat.
rest
Well,
of
it's
the planets
just
we
part
know
of
are
it.
round. Why would
Round, yeah. I mean, when we
Why
look at
would
the stars,
just Earth
when
be
we look at
flat?
the stars, we see round, but we don't see spheres. So it's
But like
your contention that
Mars
there's-
is round.
when I look at it under a powerful camera, what I see is a circular disc. It
Yeah,
could be
because
round,
you can't see it
but
in
it could be
3D
round.
because
But
you
I
can't
would
see
say that if
round.
it's round, it's just like a ball of light, like the star in the jar experiment. Have you come across that?
I think I've heard of it.
Yeah, so where they fire a frequency into water, they can get a star to emerge. And I believe that what you're seeing is a frequency, possibly in water, but it's a frequency that's creating a perturbation, which is like cymatics. It's a cymatic repeating pattern. Mars, Venus, Mercury, they're all doing their own unique dance
So
or song.
you're thinking of space is that the way they're faking it is using swimming poles.
Definitely. The International Space Station has never been built in our view. We can't see that. However, they have got a mock-up
I can see it.
with.
My naked eye, I can see the light fly across the sky, which is the
I've
International Space
seen lights moving across the sky, and if they know that how the lights move across the sky, it's possible for them to say there's a light coming across the sky now. That's the International Space Station. What I'd ask you to remind yourself is that if you were 250 miles away from Canterbury, you would not be able to make out Canterbury.
Yeah, but that's because Canterbury isn't super bright with
super bright?
massive mirrors that reflect the light down to Earth.
What light?
From the sun, you've got the solar
If you were
panels reflect the light down
if
onto
you
the
were
Earth.
250 miles above the Earth,
Yeah.
and the Earth is 8,000 miles in diameter, yeah, you're in a penumbra, you're in a dark section. There is no light to reflect off that. And just to imagine that it's
The
now
sun is
looking
always
like
shining.
the sun's always shining, but it's in the model, yes. But it's the Earth, when the sun is on the other side, i.e. nighttime, which is when you see the ISS, then the Earth is throwing a huge shadow into so-called cosmos, space. And that's where you would see it in your line of sight. That would be, so everyone says, oh, it's just a big reflector. I contend that. I say it is a light that's moving through the sky. What it is, I'm not saying I know. But the point is that it's an airplane-sized device. Maybe the size of a football field at best.
So somebody has put it up there. Somebody's launched a rocket and put it into orbit.
Well, no. That's another assumption is to say that it has to be something man-made. You know, I've been in dark places like Portugal in the mountains and South Africa in the dark place where there's no lights, and the stars at night are beautiful. And every night, for sure, I can see lights moving around in the sky. Every night, sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly. And these things are not they do not have to be man-made. They can. What we're offered is these are satellites, and satellites in space. If you Google them, you find they're all paintings. They're all CGI. There's no photos.
The thing is, though, as the International Space Station is flying over, if you're quick and with a really high-powered radio, something you might find on like a boat, just like standard boat radio, just with the transmitter off a boat that like anybody who owns a boat will have because it's law, because it's maritime law, to make sure you don't crash into people. You can talk to the people up there.
Okay.
You can say hello. You can talk to them.
That's an interesting one. I've never heard that one before.
No, you can talk to them.
Well, I know this is hard for you, and I admire that you've got the NASA. And by the way, I went to the Kennedy Space Center when I was young in 1988. I was a big space head. I grew up on the space shuttle program. Totally believed that. And I was let's say a little tearful in '86 when the Challenger event occurred. Yes, 7 astronauts, including the first teacher, Krista McCulloch, I think was her name. You know, these 6 of those 7 have been found alive. They were not on those craft that craft that blew up. So this is.
But then the people that you think fake this, like the CIA, released documentation. I don't remember how long ago, that because the shuttle was so shielded, it's likely that they didn't die on explosion. That actually they just got launched out and died when they hit the ground.
Yeah. Well, maybe, but then that negates what I just said, which is that they've been found, 6 of them, and 3 of them are professors at university with the same name. They just look 40 years older, and 1 or 2 says, I'm the twin brother of the one who died, who's been asked about it. But it's, for me, it's a really fishy thing. And I was upset by the Challenger disaster. I was a young man, 19 at the time, whatever, and it was significant to me.
An entire set of astronauts just lost their lives as they devoted their lives to this, and their
maybe
families
they didn't.
just lost.
But maybe they didn't.
He touches kids.
Maybe
He asked
they
to
didn't.
touch my willy.
You're a dark little boy. You're a child. You're a child. And you don't want to know that the Earth is not a spinning ball. Your religion of gravity is a lie.
Again, why fake it?
Gravity is a complete lie. And why fake it?
Yeah, why
Let me
fake
tell
it?
you why to fake it. Because they want to demean whatever the Creator is. I think that the Creator is in you. You are the essence of the Creator. And that,
Okay, but
that
that's
Creator
belief.
essence is in you.
You're believing that they faked it. So
I know they faked it. There's no belief in
However,
that.
no,
But I believe.
How?
But
Why would they fake it? Is the thing you believe? Your
because
theory is.
you're asking the question. I'm
Yeah,
telling
your
you that they want
theory
to
is
demean.
they've chosen to fake it to say whatever, say fuck you to this creator, to like to continue forwards what he's saying, to like prove his creation. Yes,
And
so you're saying your
part of
theory.
we come from Darwin. We come from monkeys. Part of the demeaning, the minimizing, the
So
weakening
your
of what you are.
theory is that they're pretending it's round to further God's work, correct? However, also most of your evidence is based off what we know as facts. You believe is also theory. So your theory is that it's flat to try and angst against other theories.
See, the sea level is the same across the Earth. That's not a theory that I can show.
What about
I can demonstrate that. And that, you know what, I've just driven from the west coast of England, Western Superman, and I come up 300 miles, and 300 meters, and I go down 300 meters to get to the beach here, right? So we know that when the teacher at school drew the line across the board and said, this is the continent, or this is the island, and then this is the water on the other side, we all know that water on both sides is the same level. So if if this was Africa that I was talking about, which is where I grew up, I know that I can go up the mountains and over to the west coast, and I'm on the same sea level. I've only gone up 1,000 meters and gone down.
As water is a liquid, it fills the surroundings around it. So if it were to go higher, it would spread out further.
Yes.
So
correct.
see what your point
But
is
that-
about it not
because-
being different levels, because if it wasn't different levels, if it was different levels, it wouldn't be a liquid. Water is a liquid.
Yes.
And it fills its containers. That's something we
Correct.
learned in like basic chemistry.
Correct.
Yes,
It fills
so
the container.
Earth
What happens on the top?
is technically its
What happens on the
container.
top of the container?
It stays. It goes level. It goes level.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So a
So
small
what is your
container.
point here?
Well, no, but if you tip that bowl,
Then
that
the
water's going to,
water's
once
going
you
to
get
stay
past
level.
the horizontal, that water's going to stay level and
Yeah.
then flow over.
Yes,
it must
but
be
we've
contained,
got
right?
gravity
Water
pulling
and
it back
gas.
in. We've got gravity putting it back in.
Yeah, no, hold
We're
on,
not
hold on,
putting
hold
it
on,
back in,
hold on.
keeping it
You've gone
so it's
from a
not gonna
bowl
tip
to a ball. Now let's stay with the bowl first. At the top of the bowl, when it's still, that water is level. Even if let me finish. Even if I tip even if I tip the bowl, that water's going to seep level, and if it can spill over, it'll spill over. But it's not.
talk about dick.
It's right. Yeah, child. So that's one of your. You okay?
So I suffer from seizures.
Oh. I'll slow down.
That's alright, it's alright. It's just the guy scared me.
Yeah. So I know that the bowl is level, the bath is level, the lake is level, and if I can measure it to 10 miles
But
as
it's
being
level
level.
to the plane of Earth. It's level
Okay,
to
the plane, I like that word.
to
That's
what
we're in
Earth
agreement.
is.
It's a plane. And that the continents and the land masses, they just simply rise above the water level. But it must be contained. How? I don't say I have the complete answer on that, but it must be contained. But to then put the water, just jump from that to say now the water's on the outside of the bowl, it's underneath the bowl and it's holding to the side.
If the bowl had gravity in the middle pulling all the water in, you could tip it however you want and that water will stay the same.
Can you demonstrate that?
Can you demonstrate that? It can't.
Yeah, because once I tip up the water,
Yeah, but if I said if the bowl,
Well, you're making
if the
the claim.
bowl that we're hypothesizing here, right,
Has
has
its own
gravity in it like the Earth
What is
does,
gravity?
and you twist it,
Yeah.
gravity is the
a
force that
constant.
holds us.
Yeah,
It's a
gravity
force?
is a constant which is 9.81.
Yeah, so if you're
that's an
saying
average, isn't it?
Yes,
an
to
average.
two
So
decimal
if you're
figures.
saying, right, that if this bowl had that gravity in it, as the Earth does, and you twist it, that water will still stay the level because it's being pulled equally by gravity.
Yeah, it's-
That's how
it's
it works
being
on the
pulled
Earth.
towards
You're not just
the bowl
pouring
centre.
water on top of a bowl and letting it run away, because you've got to consider the other factors in the Earth.
So that you're making a hypothesis. You agree?
So are you.
No, I'm saying that there is no gravity, and that once I tip
there
the
is
bowl,
no gravity.
No, there is
Jump.
only density
Jump.
and buoyancy. Am I in water or air?
Air.
Okay, so I know because I'm reasonably smart that I'm not going to be able to jump very high, and I'm quite heavy.
No,
But
but
if
I'm not
I had
saying
to
no jump, I'm saying you're
if
gonna
I
come
had to do
back.
that same jump in a swimming pool, I'd get a more lift,
But
although
you're
there'd be more
still going
drag.
to come back.
Yes.
You're not going to
because
jump
I-
and fly off into space.
Because
That's why we have
you weigh
gravity.
less in water because you have an up force. Your buoyancy in
Yeah, I have
water.
buoyancy, exactly.
Yeah, it's
so
called
we
an
are
up
either more or
Yeah,
less
but
buoyant. in
buoyancy
the
is a reflection of gravity.
Yes.
What? No, buoyancy is buoyancy. So where's
Buoyancy is because of gravity.
Okay,
You have
so what
buoyancy
about-
due to gravity.
So what about the helium balloon then? Where's gravity?
Helium balloon is lighter than air, therefore it's still going to. But it has to come down
helium is
eventually.
lighter than air.
Has
So
to
It comes
come
down
down
eventually. Are you lighter than air?
No,
No,
I'm
so
heavier
you
than
don't
air.
fly.
But
Yeah.
I'm less dense than water that I displace.
yes, and
Yeah?
that's why
So
when
I
you jump,
float a bit.
you,
I bob a bit
you
in
go
the water,
higher
right? I
up.
float in the water because I am less dense than the medium that I'm displacing.
You're-
And right now I'm heavy, 80 kilograms heavy, because I'm displacing very little thin air. That's all.
Yeah,
If
but
I go to a
your
higher
weight
atmosphere,
is due to gravity.
well,
You have
now,
a mass due to
You said-
gravity.
Mass-
yeah, your
well,
weight is
mass
due to
or-
gravity. You can say, oh, I'm like this long and this tall, but the 80 kilograms heavy, or however you want to put it, is due to gravity. Without gravity, you would not have a weight.
So in a swimming
Which is why
pool-
if you go up in space or whatever and you let go of a balloon, it doesn't have a weight.
do you weigh the same in the swimming pool?
I do, yes, but however the forces
How do
around
you
me
do
are
it?
reacting to
No,
you.
you'd weigh less.
No, sure.
Your mass
Weight
would be the
less, like,
same.
with interaction
No,
with
your
the-
mass would be the same,
Yeah,
but your weight would be on the
would
scale. On the
would
swimming
be
pool.
slightly
Yeah, but
less.
still
Yes.
due to gravity.
Well, I'm just saying I've changed the medium. Now I've improved my level of density, buoyancy, my buoyancy.
Yeah, 'cause
So the
you've
same
got
with the
an
helium
up
balloon.
thrust
Now you
buoyancy.
say the helium is going to come down. What's going to happen is going to rise. The helium is going to expand and it's going to pop the balloon, right?
Yes.
And then the balloon will fall down, but the helium
Will just
will
escape.
stay up there.
Yes.
Escape.
Yes,
you mean
it
that
will
it
escape
just
the
goes into the
balloon.
vacuum of space?
No, it'll get captured by our ozone.
It'll get captured by ozone. So ozone is like is something that can capture gas.
Yes.
I
That's
thought
why
ozone was just
that's why global warming happens, because the ozone doesn't let carbon dioxide out, and
You
it
guys
creates
have
a
studied
blanket.
science, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you know thermodynamics.
No.
Quite a bit.
I didn't study science that much.
So
I do, however, know
thermodynamics is
that
about
gravity is
entropy and that you can't, no energy can be destroyed, only transferred from one state to
Yes.
another.
Yes.
And that if you want to have a pressure, if you want to build up a pressure like a gas canister or deodorant can or a Coke can, you have to seal it. You have to seal it. Yes? Yes? What happens when you break the seal?
The gas escapes and floats away.
Equalizes, right?
Yeah, it
Yes.
equalizes.
So we have to have a roof, guys. That's the thermodynamics laws. We have to have a roof. You
No,
can.
but we don't because gravity.
So gravity is the roof.
The thing is,
Gravity is just a pencil fall on the floor. Now it's going to hold the helium balloon at 200,000 feet.
No, gravity is the fact that you have weight, and depending on that weight depends on how well you are gravitized. For example, as I'm quite a small person, if I was thrown in the air, I am likely to move further and for longer than you are. As you are heavier than me, you're likely to come down faster. That's what gravity does. Things like helium are too light to be contained by gravity. That does not mean that gravity is not real.
Helium gives a balloon an upthrust, which is stronger than gravity, which thusly makes it go up. If the upthrust of an item is stronger than its mass under gravity, it will fly.
Okay, so
Think
here's
of
another
paper. If you make a paper aeroplane and send it off into the sky, it's going to fly for a while, but it's going to come back down to Earth. If you make a paper aeroplane,
I'm absolutely with you. I've been
if you make a
researching
paper
this
aeroplane
for
out
a
of rock
long
and you
time.
launch it,
Oh, well, check my YouTube channel out.
I will.
Talk again.
Okay, great.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry I couldn't talk.
No, I just have to go.
Oh, all the best.
Thank you.
I'll let you know.
What's your name?
My name is Dave.
Dave.
And it's Trinity 4 on YouTube.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hey man,
Brilliant.
have a nice day. Thanks, eh? I'm
no
Dave.
worries.
What's your name?
Prometheus.
Prometheus. Cool name.
Pleasure to meet
Cool
you,
name.
Dave. Yeah, we'll have a chat, man.
Yeah.
It's gravity, right? If you take a paper aeroplane
Yeah.
and you launch it into space, or
Space?
not launch
You
it
mean
into
this
space, you throw
environment?
it, right? It's going to fly for quite a while. If you make a paper aeroplane out of rock and you throw it, it's just going to go down to flat.
Yeah.
That's because of different weights. It still has an effect on gravity. The gravity does affect on it, but the weight is different. So
I don't
the
disagree with any of that.
Yes, so
but
what you're
I'm
saying about,
is,
like,
let me finish.
you claimed that gravity wasn't real.
Let me finish and say that the reason that the plane is flying is because you gave it potential energy by first lifting it up and then
Yes, but
pushing
I'm
it,
also
right?
saying that it comes back down.
Of course, but you had to lift it up in the first place. The same with the
Of course
apple.
I did.
The apple had to be lifted up by the tree. The apple lifts up the water bit by bit and creates the tree. The tree breaks its stem, and equilibrium is sought. So it's in disequilibrium. The moment the stem breaks, it has to go to the floor. But if I put a bucket of water, it'll stop at that level of the bucket of water because of the change of the density of the medium
You
it
say
is.
you've travelled a lot, correct?
A lot.
Have you jumped
A
in all
lot.
of these places?
Jumped.
Because if you jump here, right, you're going to come back down to Earth, and if you then jump in Australia with the exact same environment, you're going to come back down to Earth at the exact same time. If the world was a plane and gravity's in the middle of it, it's going to have different reactions. You're going to come back at different times. So if the Earth is flat, as you're suggesting, and you go from place A to place B, your jumping is going to be completely different.
Why?
So
If
I
you
don't
stand
agree with
right
that.
here and you're why not?
Well, because if it's a plane, right, and I said to you the whole of the plane is just Disneyland or just Canterbury is the whole of the plane, would you expect to go from one place to another and have a different height of jump? Let me give you some information.
Depends on
that
where
might be useful.
the gravity
Let me
is
give you some
located.
information that might be useful. That in the 1968 Olympics, which was at Mexico at very high altitude, the sprinters outperformed their previous best. The distance runners underperformed their previous best, and it was determined, and you can Google this yourself, it was determined that because of the thinness of the atmosphere, sprinters had less resistance in that medium than they do at sea level, whereas the long distance runners had less so-called oxygen in the air, and therefore over distance their lungs struggled
Yeah,
more.
so as you've stated,
So
that's at
about
a higher
medium.
amplitude.
So I accept that if the medium is either more or less dense, then the performance is going to be different. The performance will depend on the medium, which is why aircraft cannot fly super fast at low level because the air is so dense. They have to kind of get quite
because
high.
you've got too much air.
As
There's too
you've
much air in the
stated,
system. So
that was where there was a higher
it gets thinner
amplitude.
as
So
you
if
go.
I jump on the top of Mount Everest,
Yeah.
I'm going to take fractions of milliseconds longer to go back to Earth than I would if I jumped here.
Gravity,
Because
the
of gravity.
9.81 is an
I'm not
average.
sure, well, why don't you? I can't test that, but it's an interesting one to
Yeah, but you're the one that's travelled the world. So what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, have you noticed, or is there any possibility in the whole world that if you jumped in Australia and you jumped here, you'd come back differently? There'd be any change in
There's an
time.
airline pilot friend of mine who's a flat earther. I'll ask him that because he's currently in Europe.
Because a lot
So
of
I'll
this
ask
is,
him-
as
I'll ask
you've
him
stated
that.
yourself, you believe that gravity is a theory and not a fact. But if gravity was a theory or didn't exist, if I jumped in Australia I'd be gone.
Well,
If
okay,
I jumped
so
here,
what
if
we're
gravity
doing-
didn't exist, I could jump
All
and
right.
away I'd go.
What we're doing is we're a long way from the simple stuff, which is can we prove that we're spinning, and can we prove that water is curving or bending over
Yeah,
the
but
surface?
the
Those two things have to be the basis.
Sorry? Egyptians proved it with 2 sticks and
In
a
the
bit of
ground,
wax.
yeah, but that can also work on a flat plane. So it's not just because you see a phenomena does not mean that it proves one way or
Because
another.
I've come up with a point that you believe could diminish your flat Earth theory, you've gone, wait, we need to go back to the basics.
Ancient cultures believed the Earth was flat. It's not my flat Earth theory. It was around for thousands of years,
Yeah, but
and the Egyptians and the Mayans and
not-
the Sumerians all worked on the basis of a roof on a
The
flat
idea
plane.
of theory is that you can go and disprove it. The idea of a theory is that there is potential that it is incorrect.
Yeah, so I give
So-
you gravity as buoyancy and density in the medium.
Yes,
So
but if
that's what
gravity
I'm-
itself is a theory,
Yeah.
then where is the try and attempts to prove it's incorrect?
Well,
I
I
mean,
think-
religion is a theory because some people
Oh.
go, oh look, there's no one up there. Some people go, oh look, there is.
but the-
Gravity is not a theory because if you jump, you're coming down. That is it. That is as deep as it needs to go. You throw something in the air, it comes down. That's gravity. Gravity is not a theory, so you cannot claim that it's a theory, therefore it doesn't exist, therefore the Earth is flat.
Well, I mean, I've offered you what we would say is that it's your density in this medium. So if you change the medium to a swimming pool, then the performance is different and your
There
weight
is
is
still
different.
gravity
right?
there.
So you can continue to say that.
There's
but we say
gravity
that
with an
we say that we don't need for gravity, and we've shown examples of like the hot air balloon and the helium balloon and so on, where you
Things
can
that are
sort of
like
completely
things that are so liable
negate
to go out of gravity's
gravity.
pull.
Well, no, it's not. They still have gravity's force
Yeah,
on them.
but I'm-
They just
I'm
have an
not
up
that
thrust
scientific, I'm
which
just
is
logical.
greater than 9.81, which is the average across the world that will pull you up. But like you said yourself, 9.81 is an average. 9.81 doesn't exist entirely over the world. It ranges from like 9.8 to 9.82 across the world.
Yeah,
We
and I
have
think a lot has to
consistent
do with
difference.
altitude, to do with the medium
Yes,
that you're dropping
exactly.
the thing in, because
Once-
it'll drop
once
more
you-
quickly. Would you agree that a stone drops more quickly through the air than through water?
Yes, but that's
Okay.
because you have water is denser than air and thusly has
The
more
resistance.
resistance.
Exactly. So I'm just saying that air is just another
Exactly
thinner form
what?
of water, and
Yeah,
that
but-
in that medium things perform
Well, yeah,
in a
because
particular
you
way.
can think of air as a fluid. That's fluid
Yes,
dynamics.
yes.
Exactly.
Yes, and in fluid dynamics, we know that when we contain it, it always settles level. Gases are moving around, I accept,
You
but
say
they settle.
level, but it's level to what we class as level.
What do you class as level?
Well, we class the world, the scientific community, or everybody, like because you get a bubble level, classes level to Earth. Earth being round. Earth
Okay.
is a level plane.
I just want to ask this guy a question because you guys have had a lot of time.
One quick question.
Yes.
I'm just confused. How is all of the other planets round, but Earth is flat then?
How do you? Well, when you say round, do you mean like a disc?
Like a sphere.
Oh, not round then, because a plate is round, and when I look with a high-powered telescope at the stars, I see something round. I agree with you, but I'm not sure that it's a sphere anymore. I used to believe that, but I know that most telescopes have computer layering that will render and improve the image that you're getting, because what your camera is picking up is data or light, energy, and then your telescope will render that into a hard Mars or Mercury or something like that. So what I say is that we're seeing lights in the sky. They are possibly round or spherical. Doesn't matter. But they're small lights and they're close. They're within hundreds of miles of us.
Yeah.
Your telescope, well, our telescopes are not that powerful. Trust me.
Yeah.
You can take a powerful telescope and point 30, 40 miles into the distance. You won't be able to resolve a person at 40 miles. But they're telling us you're seeing something that 400,000 or 200 million miles away. And I don't think that they're anywhere near as far as that. I think it's. Have you seen the star in a jar experiment?
No.
Star in a jar is where they take a frequency and they fire it into water, and they call it the star in a jar because it emerges a star. An implosion will occur because of the frequency, and it brings out light. And this light is called the star in a jar experiment. And so I think that what we're seeing is cymatics in play. We're seeing like this repeating round point of light that is just doing its same cycle, whether it's Mars, Venus. They all have their own signature, their own color, their own pattern. And you can see them slow-mo down, 8 times slow-mo down. It's like, wow, that's absolutely beautiful. But anywhere in the world, whoever's picking up that same shot will see exactly the same pattern, just doing this, moving around in the sky like this. Does that mean they're gas balls and rocks that are floating? Not necessarily.
Yeah.
I used to believe that up until 8 years ago, and then I found that there's no curvature formula, or the curvature formula for the globe is completely bullshit.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit. There is no measurable curvature over water. We
Yeah.
think we see curvature, but when we try and measure it, we find nil
Yeah.
curvature. Water is level. And then when I looked into, then I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't. I used to believe in the moon landing, so I look into the moon landing. Whoa, there's so much stuff that
Yeah.
National Geographic will never show you that's so obviously faked.
Yeah.
10 of the 12 astronauts who went on the moon were offered $5,000 to a charity of their choice. Put your hand on the Bible and swear that you went on the moon. None of them do it. Buzz Armstrong smacks Bart Sibrel in the mouth. The other one kicked him in the butt and said, "Get out of my house! I'm not doing any of that." Neil Armstrong said, "This is a video." Neil Armstrong says, "Knowing you, Mr. Sibrel, that's probably not a real Bible, so I won't do it." Now, when they came back from the moon, the three of them that went gave this press conference I'd never seen until a few years ago. It's called "A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon," the documentary. And in that, you see them look like guilty men. They look dodgy, shaky, like they're not telling the same story. Some say they see stars, some say they can't see stars when they're out there. They didn't take a photograph of the Earth on that mission from the moon, which is a bit of a clanger, right?
Yeah.
You go to the Grand Canyon and your family go, "Well, where's the picture?" You're like, "Oh shit, I forgot to take a picture of the Grand Canyon." Yeah. So they never bother taking a picture of the Earth for 5 missions. On the final mission, they take 1 or 2 photos of the Earthrise, and later nowadays, Photoshop experts go, "We can show how that was faked because there's a black box around what is the Earth. It's been cut in, and they can show that." The experts of that can show how they were photoshopping it back in that day. But their early version of Photoshop, which we can now pick out the change in the darkness of the black of that. So we know that they were faking that, and that for me was like a real killer. And then I looked into the science of it. So how do we prove that we're spinning? Like Einstein said, we'll never invent an experiment that will prove that we're spinning. He said there is no optical experiment that can be done on Earth that will prove that we are moving. So then in the 1800s, late 1800s, guys, the best scientists in England and France, Michelson, Morley, Gale, these 3 guys were the best scientists, and they do experiments trying to prove using an interferometer that the Earth is spinning. And they spent 30 years on that, and they came back with, there's some movement there, but we can't prove the Earth is spinning.
Are we spinning on an axis though?
Well, if we are, we're spinning at 1,000 miles, and no one can tell me which direction.
But
You can't point to me which direction we're
when you sit
spinning.
on a train, right, you're moving, you don't feel the train moving though, you can see it moving, but you do not feel the train moving because you're on it, you're a part of it, there is no air resistance knocking you back.
Okay, I'll accept that. So we're probably on the same page, because the train is an enclosed capsule, and I'm saying that we're in an enclosed capsule. If you took the lid of the train off, if you took the roof of the train off, is the experience going to be the same? 100 miles an hour on the motorway, put your arm out of the window.
Yeah.
We're traveling at 1,000 miles an hour, and we're meant to believe that the atmosphere is
Because
Velcroed.
we can't stick our arm out in it, can we? If you take the lid off, part of you is going to be exposed to the outside
But
environment.
now you just
correct?
gave me an
But
example
if
of
you
something that was
stand on
enclosed.
Earth,
And now you're saying that...
and you can't stick... Can you stick
Also,
your arm out of the atmosphere?
but I
appreciate
I-
the dialogue.
yeah.
Take my
Yeah.
flyer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It is interesting.
I think that God is. I think that God is within us. I don't have a religion. I think that we are God. I think we are God. But we are made to think that we are animals and evolved beasts. And there's aliens and other life and other masters and governments that own us. But we should be our own government, our own master. And they steal that by making us believe in Darwin and make us believe in atoms and all of that stuff. There was a creator, and we're in it. We're in the creator, but we are the creator.
Can I just ask,
Thank you.
what is the point of all this? What are you trying to achieve?
What I'm trying to achieve, I like the way you asked that. I see you wearing the Christian cross.
Pardon?
I see you wearing the Christian cross.
Yeah.
So you've read Genesis.
I'm also a science teacher.
You've read, but then, you see, when I was a kid, right, I loved science, and I used to mock my religious teachers and say, your Bible is so hard to touch. Why? Because it teaches about a flat, unmoving earth. That's what the Bible does. And
It doesn't. I mean, even the ancient Greeks knew that the earth was curved. And
let's not hop out of Genesis at this point in time. In the Genesis, it says that God made the sun and the moon as lights, one for the day and one for the night. Lights independently, not a reflector of another bigger light. They were both equal lights, and they were on fourth day. Now, in science that you teach, you're teaching everybody the inversion of that, that the sun comes before the earth. Yes, and I taught my older children to university level on that same science and the same principles of Darwinism and so on. So now I know that whatever God is, that God resides within us, we are the temple of God, and that the system here has been designed to usurp God's intention.
Okay,
So that's why I think it's so important that I come out and say this. The flat Earth is just a gateway to the
What
truth.
you're actually telling me, okay, is that you've read Genesis, you've read it literally.
No. You're making, listen, lady,
Okay.
you're making too many assumptions, and I know I'm offending you
Oh,
with
no,
what
no,
I'm
no,
saying.
no, I'm not. I actually want
so
you
then
to
don't play
answer
it back
my
to me
question.
like you're telling me
like
my
you
life
to
story.
answer my
I stopped
question.
at the age of 13 with the Bible
Okay.
study, by the way,
Okay.
because I didn't believe in all of that shit. And by the time I was 45,
Okay.
I was pretty strong atheist.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, I
And I
actually became
believe,
Christian 4
believe
years
Brian
ago,
Cox,
so-
and I
yeah.
loved Hitchens. You know, Chris Hitchens, when he died, was a sad moment for me. So I was atheist, believer in we come from evolution, out of Africa, 70,000 years.
Yeah.
I believed all of that stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Now I know from this insight that I was deceived, and that I
Okay.
was only pushing my deception on my children and those
Okay.
around me, and
Yeah.
all of it in denial of what God truly is. So I like to tell Christians and even the Muslims, because the Muslims know that the lights travel over. Muslim preachers have told me this. Yes, we know the lights travel over us. We do not move underneath them.
Right.
And so for me, the Bibles and these religions are trying to tell us this truth about, you know, our divine heritage, not that it's evolution 12 billion years or 4 billion years, whichever one. You know, it's not those things. That we are actually the intention, and we've been designed, that's in the last few thousand years, but it could be hundreds of, I'm not, but all of this was never like let's wait for slime to become monkeys, and monkeys to become man, and monkeys to wait for the dinosaurs to get wiped out, and so that we could then finally emerge as we are. No, God had an intention to come in the expression of you. That's what I tell people, and that I've got no religion to sell, simply that you and I and each of us are connected. We have the same blood, we are connected to the same source.
The Bible says that.
The Bible says that, yeah, okay.
But the science of Darwin and of atomism, in fact, is all, and heliocentrism, by the way, is sun worship.
Yeah.
And it's all about demeaning God's intention. So I think that when you've been poisoned like that, it's going to be poisoning the well of God's temple.
Okay, so heliocentrism for the solar system has actually been proved for like hundreds of years. But
What's been proven?
That the sun is at the centre of our solar system, and that our solar system is one of many within a
That's very
big
demeaning of
universe.
God's intention. And God doesn't want us in sun worship.
So how do you? So I'm not.
God doesn't want us
I'm
in
not-
sun worship.
I don't think she's advocating sun worship.
No. She's not. You don't realize that.
Angry.
You don't realize that
angry
heliocentrism. I apologize.
And I actually was trying to ask you a question because I'm trying to understand you. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me just answer the point.
Can I do that? Okay.
Let me just answer
After
the point. The
yours.
point is that heliocentrism makes the sun the life giver and the primary thing on earth, when that's not true. The sun in Genesis are lights to rule the day and moon to rule the night.
Do you know what? Genesis actually proves what you've just said.
What, that sun is
That the sun is not the source of life. It actually proves that.
Yeah, I'm
Do
with
you know
that.
that?
I'm with that.
Because God in Genesis created the plants before He created the sun.
Right.
So
Yeah.
He's telling us that actually, look,
I'm with you
I
on that.
created the plants.
Yeah.
The plants depend on light. I am the light. The first thing He created was the image of Himself, which was light, because in light there is no darkness. So actually, you've just proved that Genesis is, and God had another meaning that you do not see, and yet you're so certain.
I am certain. So let's talk about things that we can
But that's
test.
the whole point, isn't it? That if God is bigger than us, then He is a mystery. And so
Yes.
do we not
So not the
subscribe
small
to a
lights in the
mystery?
sky.
So
You know,
isn't
if you
that
went
the
to the
problem with
football
the world,
match,
that
you
everyone,
don't worship the
every
lights in the sky.
individual is so certain
Yes.
that actually
Yes.
now we're all fighting each other because
Yes.
we're so certain
Yes.
of our truth
Yeah.
and not depending on each other, that each of us has
Yeah,
got
I'm
our
with
own
you. I'm
kind
with
of
you on that.
dependence, interdependence.
But the religious houses have
Which
been
is
at
also
the heart of-
science. Interdependence is science
Yeah.
as well.
No,
and actually, you're trying to say that gravity is not what it is. I don't think you understand that gravity is not even a force. Einstein
The lady
proved that.
before-
It's
you said it is a force.
It's not. Well, no, it's not. It's not. It's not a force.
research into further scientific studies. I was taught in school that it is a force.
Yeah, no, but actually they're teaching it wrong. So I happen to be a science teacher, so I know this. Gravity is not a force, it's an acceleration. So actually, if you took out the air, and you can prove this, everything will fall to the ground at the same speed.
Agreed.
Now, Einstein also said that if you took out the backdrop, you would actually see that you would actually, because everything is falling at the same rate, if you took away the background, you'd actually only see the things as if they were standing still. So actually, he's actually saying that our whole perception of the universe and our perception of quantum mechanics is so unlike our actual experience.
So things are rising. Is that the kind of things are rising?
No, he's saying it's standing still, that actually we're all standing still.
Okay.
And that actually our whole perception of the universe.
Let me ask you this thing, because you talked about the
what
vacuum
we
chamber.
accept.
Yeah, you talked about the vacuum chamber experiment.
As one, as one example.
I've looked at this and given it some thought.
Okay.
I agree absolutely that the medium that the object is in, or objects are in, will have a determination on a speed of fall or a rate of fall. Would you agree?
Well, look, I can prove that.
Would you agree, yes or no? Yes or no?
If you give me two pieces of paper, exactly the same size, exactly the same mass, I will prove it to you now.
Okay. But now
that is the case.
Now, but they fall. Their rate of fall or acceleration is determined by the atmosphere or the environment.
Resistance.
Okay. So if I put something, say, I dropped it through the air like a stone, it would fall at
if you drop what? Sorry.
A stone through the air.
Yeah.
It would fall at a particular speed, and then we would agree that it would fall slower if it went through water.
So the speed at which something is actually falling is going to be determined by its mass times the effect of the gravitational field strength, which is not the same. It is not a force. So weight is actually a force. So
it's a
which
measurement
is
of a
caused by
force,
your
isn't it?
mass. Now, we can prove that because if you wanted to go to the moon, or if we send objects to the moon, or we send you to Jupiter, I mean, even Arnold Schwarzenegger wouldn't even be able to lift a finger on Jupiter because the effect of his mass and the gravitational field strength, which is the size of the planet, plus the fact Jupiter saves us because of its gravitational field strength. It saves us from being attacked from asteroids. So
I understand where these theoretical things are coming from, but I never got to finish. And that is that this is my point. Okay, let me just get to the point.
He does think the moon landing is fake.
Let me get to the point. Let me get to the point that the objects in your vacuum chamber only fall because they were lifted out of equilibrium.
Lifted out of equilibrium.
Well, the example given to me by every
true,
globe.
mightn't it? If everything's truly standing still, as Einstein's actually said, then actually, if we turn it, and then things only move if you apply force. So if you actually sent a ball through space, for example, it would actually fly exactly the same speed, dependent on the force that I applied to it, forever until it came across something else to act as a force on it. I mean, that's Newtonian physics.
Okay, so
But the fact is that Einstein and quantum mechanics is so weird that actually our whole reality is very different. So perhaps it might be worthwhile doing some research on quantum mechanics
I have, actually.
and the nature of reality.
Yeah, and I found that quantum mechanics works well with the electromagnetic theory, which is what I try and talk on, is that we are electromagnetic beings inside of an electromagnetic torus.
Well,
so let me talk for a little while.
Again,
You've
I
had the mic for a
understand that
while.
every
Let me talk for a little
single
while.
object in the universe
Ma'am, I know you're a teacher, but I'm here in the street to teach.
But I'm actually
So
saying
having
you're
you
right.
repeat back-
You're right.
Oh,
I know
thank you.
this.
Thank
You're
you.
right because
Well-
everything that has mass actually has a frequency.
Yes.
So you have a frequency.
Yes.
But the reason you can't move through a wall is because your frequency is lower. Is so significantly lower than your mass. So it's actually a sliding scale. So actually, if you're an electron, you have virtually no mass, which means that you can act as a particle and a wave, and that's because the frequency and the mass are completely the other way around.
The double
So
slit.
actually, the double slit experiment. So what you've said is true. So
Well,
yeah,
thank
you're
you.
right.
Well, I think
So
that it's
what
an
you've done is-
electromagnetic universe. But see, but when people hear about flat Earth, they're thinking that it's a pancake in space. When that's not what anybody thinks. So what we think is that it's that, like the ancients believed, ancient cultures that were higher than us believed that it was an enclosed system.
But
Now,
light
I
is
offer
an
to you-
electromagnetic wave.
What?
So
Light is an electromagnetic
Yeah,
wave?
you've got electromagnetism on Pluto. So what's your point? This is everywhere. So I'm really not sure.
You're upset.
No, I'm actually saying he's
You
right.
upset this
So
lady
I'm
earlier on.
about the
You upset this lady
electromagnetic
earlier on. I
universe.
think
I'm
you owe
just
an
trying to say, what
apology.
is his point?
You frightened this lady. Is that your gig? You like frightening ladies? You're a nice guy, man.
I'm not really
Nice guy.
sure. So I'm just confused as to where this is going and why you've done this whole.
Because
so
I'm here
this
to
is what
try
we
and
wanna
break
know.
some of the indoctrination, the spell that is put upon all of us that I think demeans mankind, which is why we're so at war with each other, why we are so divided, why we're willing to be tax slaves, willing to put masks on our face when somebody else tells us to do so. All of these sorts of
I
things.
agree with
So
tax.
here,
Do you know what? I agree with the tax thing.
Everyone who's ever lived
the
has
government,
probably agreed
the only government.
Let's face it. Let's face it. Come on.
let's
You
say-
guys are still here.
To pay
Let's
to
say-
one more question.
But let's say,
You guys are still here.
let's say all wars are
one
bankers'
more
wars,
Please tell
and
me
the
you don't
bankers
agree.
lend your country money that your children will pay for.
Yeah, but you know
so
what?
That's
Jesus
the hard.
understood
That's the hard
something
truth.
really, really fundamental, and that is that if you, whatever the system is, whatever the system is, someone is going to corrupt it, and so ultimately, you know,
I'm
we
calling
have
out
got
that
to obey
corruption.
it.
I'm calling out the corruption. And here from a science, let's get back to
So
science.
you're calling
Let's
out
get back to science.
humanity. You're calling out Satan. So all we can
I'm
do
calling
is
out the
change
brainwash.
ourselves.
You know?
Yeah, you know.
I'm just calling out the brainwash. I'm not making it personal. Just because somebody's a teacher of a belief system, that does not mean I'm going to have a personal attack against them. I might not agree with what they're saying, but let's get to stuff that we can test. That curvature, if we live on a globe, curvature is meant to be measurable. And there's a formula for that curvature. 8 inches per mile squared is offered by the globe proponents, right? Now, I got given that formula in 2015, and when I saw that, because I'm a maths guy, I'm like, I grew up by the sea, and that formula doesn't compute, because I could see things at ranges that do not fit with that model. So what long-range photography has absolutely killed the globe. You know, you tell your students that the ship is, hold on, sir, the ship is going over the horizon at 4 or 5 miles. That's right, it goes down. When you say down, why do you sink down? It should be curving down like this, and in a constantly going curve, right?
Yeah, but that's not what you would see.
What did you
Because
say?
light travels in a straight line.
Can I answer that?
Let me finish my point. Let me finish my point.
I've got a really good point
So what
for what you
happens
are.
is that the ship
So-
goes over the sea,
so,
and
what's your
then
name, sorry?
we can take
name's Laura, what's yours?
Sorry, my
high-powered
name's Doug,
cameras
sorry.
and bring it
You're right,
right
fella.
back into view.
If the world is flat, why do you keep trying to touch my bum?
Weak man.
Saying that the world is
This is the level of your fellow globalist believers. Is that this is
I'll
what
see
happens.
one more question.
now. I'm a labelled fellow
One more question,
globalist believer.
right? If the world is that shape with the diagram, how do we have proof?
Can you read? This is
I
just
can read,
information.
yeah.
This is just
Okay, well, whichever shape you think it's not a globe.
What have I studied?
I say
You
that
said,
it's
you
an
said
apple.
the world
I
is not
say
a
that
globe.
it's an apple. I think that we
Okay.
live here.
You
I think that we live.
think we live in an apple.
No, I don't think that. It's obviously an analogy. It's not an apple in that way, but it's like the big apple, and you are the small apple inside.
Okay, so you're saying the world is not a globe. Yes, you're saying the world is not a globe.
So it's a globe, but we're on the inside of it. See, an orange is a globe, an apple is a globe. Yes? Yes, would you agree?
It's not a
Would
spinning
you agree?
ball. No, I would not agree.
You don't think that we're like a sphere shape, spherical, oblate spheroid?
No,
Like
just because it's a sphere doesn't mean it's a globe.
Okay, you're not wanting to go along
No,
that.
no, I'm
But I'm just saying
genuinely
that.
asking because you said it's not a spinning ball, correct? If it's not a ball, how have we been able to sail all the way around the world?
This is how. This is the flat Earth map that they used to fly to in the
I'm not even
1940s.
saying that
These are flat routes.
All the way around the world, as in all the way around the world.
Yeah, that works on a flat. That works on a flat map. And they stop in South America, and they go to Cape Town, and they go back to England, and they go out here.
So now you're
Australia.
just suggesting the entire geography of the globe as we know it is wrong.
This is the United Nations logo. And we think that the map looks something like this. This is the United Nations logo. We don't think that we've ever been very far over this ice sheet here that holds everything in. That's what we believe. We don't know that for sure, but we know for sure. We've never plotted a flight underneath the globe. We've never flown underneath the globe.
There is no underneath.
Tell your students that we've never flown under the globe. Go and look it up.
Where
We've
is
never
under the
flown
globe?
under the globe.
Where is under the globe? Australia is under the globe. Some people think we dig straight through the earth to find China.
Okay, but
That's under the globe, technically.
on this, there is an Antarctica.
Yes, there is.
And in we've never been 180 degrees from one side of Antarctica to the other. Plane, boat, man, ship, nothing. We've never done that. And when too dangerous. You're making excuses. When they can fly at minus 50 degrees at 35,000 feet.
Someone has flown upside down, but in order to do that, they would have to flip the airplane up the other way. And then they'd be upside down.
And so NASA have never given us footage. NASA has never given us footage of ships or planes on the underside of the belly of the Earth, like a tick, or it ticks on a dog's belly.
I'm really confused.
Sure that this is the ball.
Pictures from space are all cartoons, sir.
But you're always stuck to the ground.
Okay, NASA have given us there's a NASA guy called Rob Simmons. He admitted making the blue marble that went on everybody's iPhone. He said, I drew it from data.
No.
Right, so someone yesterday taught me something about St. Augustine of Hippo.
Yeah.
He came up with this idea called libido dominum, and it's basically called lust of domination. Worth reading about, because what it says is that the sin of man is that he always wants to be the one in charge.
Like a teacher.
No, I'm not.
Like what you are doing.
No, I tell you,
I'm
I
calling
allow
out
people.
the ones in charge, brother. I'm not paid. I do not get a salary from the deceivers.
And I
You
don't,
do.
I don't get a
You
sense.
do. No, you get paid to
I
deceive
don't get
people.
paid for what I do.
I do not get paid.
How are you wearing nice shoes then? How have you got money?
I'm a YouTube subscriber.
okay.
Do you support me a bit?
Yeah, so look, he's looking
I do. Yeah, I do get supported by other people. There are millions of people on the Earth. I've got pilot friends who know that the Earth is not a
I do
globe.
have one question.
I've got pilot friends who know that the Earth is not a globe.
Do you have permission to be here? Because I feel like this is trespassing. You don't own property.
Now you're being anal. Do you want to go work for the government?
I'm
Don't
not
put a
being
police uniform on.
No.
You have no authority here. Does this look like a business that's open? Do you think that I'm interfering with anybody's business today? You're a reasonably intelligent.
Guitar player that just wait time for. There is like people that play music that want to stand here and they can't.
Oh, so I can't stand here and give you truth. Is it frightening for you, son?
No, it was
Is
just.
it frightening to hear this truth, people?
What's frightening
Is it
for me?
frightening to hear that you've been lied to by your government?
What's frightening to me is the fact there's a fully grown man here yelling at me because he doesn't know basic science.
Fair enough.
Do not be so frightened, son. I'm only calling out your belief system.
Mr.
NASA is a belief system. They do it all with CGI.
Why?
To make you
It's a bit
small,
expensive.
to make you a slave, to keep you in a box, to hide more land, to deny God. Pick your reason. But they are lying to you. I'm not the one doing it. The liars are the one you should be asking. But I assure you, it's not in your best interest.
Do you ever look at like a.
Can you stand on the edge of the earth? That's the big
Go stand on the edge of the earth. Go stand on the side of the ball, son. Let me see you balance on the side of the ball. In fact, let me see any of you balance on a ball.
flat is all CGI.
If you live on a ball, tell me how you can walk on the side of a ball. You cannot. Gravity is this, the falling of something.
No,
How does it make
no.
So we can fall
Like
down.
this,
The
attract to the
theory
center
of
of the earth.
gravity is theology. It's a belief system. You cannot prove that. Do me a physical experiment that shows me how things, water, is going to sit on the side of a ball. A physical experiment, not a mind experiment, not somebody else's mind experiment. Brian Cox.
This is a literally experiment.
That
Everything is attacked to the center of the earth. If I go 20 kilometers that way,
Son,
it will go in
who
another
picked up that
direction.
lighter? Gravity or you? Who gave it potential force? Gravity or you?
Gravity. Gravity is acting on me now. On you, on your phones,
picked up-
on your
so
hair.
gravity picked that lighter up before you dropped it? Or did
I'm
you
keeping now.
use your
My force-
muscles, your force, to impart a force, an energy, into that otherwise inert object that would sit here and float on water?
No, sorry. This is my force. I'm punching the fucking lighter on the
No,
ground.
you're missing the point. I said when you pick it up.
Yeah, I'm
when
going
you pick
against
it
the
up,
gravity
you
force.
give it energy.
I'm going against the gravity force.
No, you're going against its natural density.
No,
Its buoyancy.
I'm going
When
against
you
the
push-
gravity force when I pick it from the
when you push
ground.
the football, when you push the football underwater, what's going to happen?
It's go up because
Oh,
there's
go up.
air in it.
So it's trying to find neutral balance, equilibrium, right?
Air
Balance.
is in the ball, so it has to go up. because
Exactly. And helium? And helium?
Helium is less
lighter than air.
Yeah.
It's lighter than air. It's got nothing to do with gravity.
I have
And where does helium? Where does helium settle? Where does helium settle in the atmosphere? I know we find helium all over, but
ice
actually
ball.
when we draw it out, it's up in the atmosphere. If we put these things in a tube, right, a test tube, all the gases will settle at their level, the heaviest to the lightest. And all of those levels will be level, they will be flat. So the helium is going to go up, but in the test tube it must be contained. In our world, it must also be contained. Otherwise, that helium continues up until what? Gravity holds it, but it can't hold it at the
No,
ground.
there is an atmosphere. That atmosphere is like everything that keeps air, gas, and everything in our atmosphere.
You cannot buy a deodorant can with no can. The deodorant pressure must be inside the can. That's second law of thermodynamics.
I have a question.
You have to contain, to have pressure, you have to contain in a can, in a Coke can, or whatever. If you break that can, equalization, high to low.
This smoke is going up because it's less weight than air.
And also warm.
And
also
everything
heat.
that is
And
less,
also
that weights less than fucking air and
Exactly.
gravity goes.
No, not and gravity. I can have everything that you have with gravity. I have that with buoyancy and density. And the medium it's in will determine the speed at which it falls or rises. And as that helium balloon rises, it will actually start to slow, I think, as it gets higher and higher. And eventually it'll get to a point where it's going to settle or burst the balloon. That's why the weather balloons, they go to 120,000 feet and they'll float there for a while. Because that's where its level is.
Yeah, but my question was a bit different. Doesn't matter.
Can I ask you a question? How do you explain friction?
Friction is rubbing or the moving against two things.
Yeah,
so
but
friction in the air. If I'm traveling 100 miles an hour in my car and I put the hand out the window, I'm going to feel a lot of friction, yes?
Yeah,
Yes?
but when I'm doing this is friction because the gravity is on the ground.
No.
if there's no force putting
No. There are a number of factors here. If I put grease on the floor.
And if there's pulling down to the ground, there would be no friction.
There's no force pulling down the ground. No, you've got your weight, yes? Your mass.
Yeah.
Yes, it's giving you weight.
And why is this pulling down?
Well,
Because
because
of
you have a
gravity.
certain amount, well, because you are in thin air. If I put you in a swimming pool now,
Yeah.
and you did the same experiment, would you rub so hard? No.
There's
There's much less friction, right? Why?
there's
Because
water.
you are now more buoyant in that environment.
There's water.
But if I put an anvil, I could put an anvil in.
But why is there
I
friction
put an
at all?
anvil in mercury, in a pool of mercury. It floats. Why? Why? Why does it float? Because it is less dense than the medium it's in.
Yeah.
So it's simply density and buoyancy that's having the effect here. We do not need, before Archimedes had no gravity.
It's
And he
different.
was coming up with
Mercury is
all
a
of this
liquid, water is a liquid. If you're talking about liquids, it's different experiment than talking about ground or talking about like a rock. It's different. Every material has different types of it's flat or it's rounded. It's different forces acted to it every different time. If I talk about a liquid or a gas, it's different each other. So the
There's
conclusion.
fluid dynamics and there are variations in that, but they do have a few laws or a few things that they all work to, right? And that is that you can take, like we've done here, you can take this experiment here. Everyone knows this experiment. You can take different liquids and you can drop different things in. Then the bolt will go to the top, the bottom, the grate might go halfway down, and they'll all find their own buoyancy as they go down into different mediums, and that's where they float. Yes, they'll float on their own. And the same is true with gas. The same is true with gas. And I think that here on sea level, the gas is denser. And so our performance as a sprinter is slower than when we go to 2,000 meters of elevation. And
Yeah,
that's
but it's the
provable,
pressure of air.
As a matter of fact.
It's the pressure of air. The
pressure of air.
the gas is
No,
different.
well, they say the air is thinner. Yes. So it's thinner. So the medium has become thin or rarefied, and therefore my performance has improved. And the same is true with a stone. If I drop the stone through the air,
It's
and
the
water,
opposite. If we go up to the moon, we have like less oxygen and more helium, or like less less air, and we feel like, oh yeah, okay, we have to go.
Hey
to the
guys,
yeah.
sorry about that earlier.
No, yeah, fair enough.
I had a
Everyone has
long
his
day.
opinion.
I've had a long day.
Well, look, one of my close people died as well, all right? But it's not. But it's because
why is there gravity if the Earth would be flat? Like
There doesn't need to be. I was just explaining to him. There doesn't need to be gravity. Things are they either float, they go up if they're lighter than the air, and they go down if they're heavier than the air. But if I change it to a swimming pool, more things would float, and other things would, the heavier things would go down. Like you float in water, but you don't float in this air. That's just about how thin the air is versus how thick the water is, how dense the water is. So it's buoyancy and density. Those two factors alone will determine, or the medium will determine whether things go up, like helium balloon and hot air balloon, or they come down. even a submarine. A submarine will have to blow out air in order to dive.
Because air is lighter.
Because air is lighter. So it's really just about creating buoyancy. If you're a scuba diver, you know this. You just create buoyancy, or you get neutral buoyancy, and you get everything like leveled off. So if I hold an apple in the air like this, I'm kind of holding it out of its natural equilibrium. But once I turn my hand up, it's going to fall to the floor. But if there's a bucket of water there, it floats on the bucket of water. Floats on the top of the water. So I believed in gravity. I believed in all of these things. But now I know that buoyancy and density answer all of the questions. Take my flower.
Wait, I've got a question. What is the actual argument about?
Useless if the mind is blind.
Well, firstly, that we have been deceived. Then the why have we been deceived, yeah? Once you get over we've been deceived, then it's the why we've been deceived. And for me, the religions, the government, the academia, it's all somehow controlled. I'm not saying that all the people in it are lying, but it's all being controlled to control your mind. Once they control your mind, they got your body. Once they got your body, they might have your soul. Some people say we're on a soul journey here, and I think there might be some truth on that.
You won't break my soul.
No, but if I can mislead you, I can misdirect you, then I might be able to affect your soul journey. Certainly your body's journey, but your soul journey too.
So do you believe the Earth is flat, and then we have like we have the ozone layer?
Yeah.
Do you think we still have that over us, and we're just flat?
Yeah, the ozone layer is like a theoretical gas layer, but I say we have like the Bible says that there's a firmament, like and all the ancient cultures, the Mayans, Egyptians, Sumerians, they all said we live inside like a ball, and inside of that ball, like an orange if you like, we live on a plane in the middle where there's water and sea around us, but it's enclosed, so we cannot escape out or up. Some people say, and it could be true, that there's more land, that the ball is bigger, or the land mass of the continents are more than we see here. I think that's a possibility, because one of the great ways of wrapping us in the ball is we sail around this little Q75 continents, and we never realize that there's another 20 continents further out, and that we've never been allowed to go to. There's the Antarctic Treaty, which was signed in 1957 by all the developed countries,
where you can't,
and maintains
where
that.
they show no photos of it.
Well, and you can't travel below 60th parallel without permission, and if it is, it's normally military guided. It's not like you and I could go down there if we were rich. We go, all right, let's spend 10 years cruising around there. Last guy who spent 10 years cruising around there was Admiral Byrd, and in the 1950s, the Americans paid him. They gave him a fleet of ships, and they paid him to go down there and explore it. He came back on TV and said, I found land bigger than America down there. Land that no one else has seen before. Land where it's green, where there's resources, and all this sort of shit. The next year he dies, and they sign the Antarctic Treaty. So, and he was like a ticker tape parade through New York kind of guy. 3 times they gave him a ticker tape. He was so celebrated for what he did in the North Pole and so on. So he ends up telling us stuff, and his son releases his diaries some years ago, and in that there's stories of him meeting civilizations that are higher than ours, and that are on other continents, and that maybe this is some kind of prison that we're kept in because we're of a low consciousness or whatever. I don't know that.
So do you believe in the Illuminati?
I don't believe in the Illuminati. I've seen a lot of evidence of secret societies.
Yeah.
And they're all over the place. It's just like there's a Freemasons place down the road here. But most Freemasons would say, we're a good society, we do good deeds and so on. But there are secret societies, and you swear oaths to secret orders. And so if you're Prime Minister, or in the case of the Americans, your president is like a 33rd degree Freemason every time, or the astronauts are 33rd degree Freemasons. You're like, well, are they being told to keep something quiet for some reason? It might be good, it might be nefarious, but it seems to me that these secret societies absolutely exist.
Yeah.
And at the very top table of Tesco's, we don't know what they're talking about in the boardroom, so we certainly don't know what they're talking about in the Vatican and in these other ultra-governmental organizations that seem to, Club of Rome, Club of 300, all of these that seem to exist, Bilderbergers, that seem to have levers of power and be funded or involved with the biggest money people, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, all these sorts of things, the Vatican again.
Yeah.
13 families, there's a whole lot of stories about there being some secret cabal that oversees everything. Now I say to people in the last 3 years, since they were able to lock down 198 countries in the same month, these countries don't normally do business together, and they're not necessarily friends, and they all do exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that's pretty powerful based on the evidence that was there. Something's able to pull the string and say, you shut down now. That means that I'm not in charge of my own country. If you can pick up the phone and say, lock down your economy now. So there's a lot of stuff that makes me think, wow, yeah, there's definitely, and I didn't believe in secret societies or anything up until I started looking at this, like, okay, there's definitely a steering hand that's kind of controlling the trajectory of mankind. And I don't think that it's in humanity's best interest. Like, we're being sent into these sort of 15-minute city prisons where your digital ID, you're going to be tracked every minute, your digital currency is going to be tracked, some sort of Chinese style, it's all pretty like Orwellian, what's coming down our way. So that's because people are asleep. They're like, oh, well, we'll trust the government, like I used to. I even voted for Tony Blair, and Tony Blair took us to war on a lie about weapons of mass destruction. I went to war in 1987 in Angola on a lie about communism and capitalism. So I know all about being brainwashed. So I think we've all been brainwashed, and we're all meant to be either going along with it or maybe finding out someone saying something, because for me it took 47 years before I snapped out of my slumber. And I was like, oh shit, there's something weird going on, incredible, and I need to get out and tell people about it, because actually it's a beautiful thing. I don't sell no religion, I just tell people that, well, you might be the very center of the universe, and the Creator's light resides in each of us uniquely and should be honored uniquely as being, whoa, you're one of God,
If that's the case, then why have we been deemed as the lower frequency people that remain here on Earth? And
interesting.
Is that because one theory I've heard is each racial group had their own planet of different people. So there's like a black planet, a white planet, whatever. And then one day some mad experiment just sent everyone here, and that's why for years we would fight each other.
So let me offer you this from a flat Earth perspective, because I used to believe in outer space, by the way, and I was looking forward to them finding life on Mars. I really wanted them to find life on Mars because it would prove my evolution theory, right? I really loved evolution. That was me. So I think that on a flat Earth, we get mud flood, like Noah's flood. I think that happens every few hundred years. And I think there was one less than 600 years ago, and I think I can show you, if I had the time, evidence of that. However, I think what happens is there's a rushing over or flooding of this flat Earth. And then, just like you said, I think that on the flat Earth there are other continents further out that have black people maybe, or what we call African people, and European people and Asian people and so on. I think that that's a possibility, and then they get receded. We get receded back in here to kind of have this experience. Now it's a long conversation.
Like an experiment. Social experiment.
So maybe that, but I do think that your soul is here having a story, a journey. I do think that. I had DMT in 2015 and ayahuasca, and that was like a game changer for me. And I saw that I am connected to my higher self, an eternal being. And I was an atheist as I went into that previously. And then I saw that I'm connected to everything. Everything is love, and we are connected. We are all one. I know that we might come from a different part of the garden.
I had that. I took some acid once.
I say to people that God can create a red rose and a white rose. You know what I mean? So that doesn't demean the red or the white. It just says that
it's just variation.
Yeah.
But for the longest time, we was conditioned to make those variations into a hierarchical structure and as a way to demean people. But it never needed to be that way.
So I have this other theory, which is interesting from a flat Earth perspective, and that is that the hottest the hottest the climate is under the equator. We agree. That's the hottest part of the world. And as you deviate to Cancer and Capricorn, things get cooler. And so I think that if God is this clever, then of course that the darkest skinned people would be in the hottest climates. As you move north or south, then skins get lighter and people are different. So that's a only sort of deviation on that idea that there's a black colony, if you like, or a black continent and a white continent. Is that I think that the hottest skins, the skins that can handle the heat the best, are nearest the sun. And those that can't,
when you look at the Hindu religion and you look at their paintings,
well, let me ask you this: that the Hindus believe in something called a Vimana. They talk about the Vimanas. They were flying craft. They had flying craft back in that time. So could they fly? Now, because for me, we can't get out of the roof. I think that the common line is where our roof is. The biblical Genesis talks about a dome, firmament, and the guy who ran the rocket program, Bernard von Braun, he said that that's all he's got on his tombstone. Psalm 91. The heavens declare the glory of God and the firmament showeth his handiwork. And he's the one who took us to the moon, right? So he put that on his tombstone. I think that there's a roof, but it might be that the plane is very long, that it's very big, and we could actually be coming in or flying in from different places once they recede, once we've had a flood out, because we look into mud flood.
Do you think there's going to be a big cleansing of the earth again?
I think it's a natural thing. It's almost like the fire, sometimes goes through the forest, and it burns it all out, and then new life comes back.
Yeah.
And emerges fresh and anew.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm not scared for my dying because I know that I'm an eternal soul.
Yeah.
And I don't know when that time will come, but it does seem that there is a cyclical washing. Now, I think God talks about there being like it coming in different forms, either being fire, water, ether, or air, and we think that we're in an air or a metal upgrade or change coming soon. That's what I think might be coming. So it might be an ethereal shift. But of course, I'm theorizing, but I do think that there are...
don't take this in the wrong way, but if the earth is flat, what are we going to do with that information? How will it improve anyone's life? Because we still have to pay bills and...
Well, that might be true, although you might, and I spent a year in South Africa recently, and I was telling this stuff to my African brothers out there, and they took this message really well, and a lot of them get this idea that, yes, we should actually go back to the land. We should find our way back to the land, get out of the corporate environment that we've been seduced by, and become more responsible to ourselves and to be husbands of the land and look after the land around us. So that would be the kind of dream, if you like.
Yeah.
It may not happen in one lifetime, or it may happen to you but 10 years down the line. But if you're working towards that aim, rather than, I'm going to keep saving for whatever mortgage or saving to whatever, go on holiday, rather than, I'm looking to free myself from the corporate control system that I've been... shrug my shoulders, what can I do about it? I'll go on and hopefully get a good retirement, and I'll be 50, 60 years old and tired.
Yeah.
Whereas, God wanted you, you were meant to come and experience nature. You are nature in nature, and yet you're trapped inside a concrete jungle. Not you, but we are trapped inside of a concrete jungle, constantly being monitored. Even our spending eventually being monitored. Everything that we do being monitored. Oh, you work too many hours, we'll have to take some more money from you. Kind of thing. Everything being controlled. You wouldn't put up with that, and eventually you would try and find a way to liberate yourself. But even if that doesn't happen, if you can know inside yourself who you are, then the way that you love yourself and those around you will be transformed. I truly believe that. And that's my testimony, because that's been my experience.
Are you a Christian?
No. But I do like some of the Christian story in the Bible. I take a lot of good information from the Bible. But I think that Jesus was trying to tell us that we are God's children. We are the creation. Because when I say this, if you look in the mirror and say, I'm the truth, the way, and the light, no one comes to God but through me. You're actually speaking to yourself. And the temple of God is behind your eyes. And the Muslims will tell you that if you want to get too close to God, He's closer to you than the jugular vein in your neck. So I believe that God is in you, and the truth is written on your heart, and you do not need a man or a book or a wizard to tell you what is right and what is wrong. But if you've been hurt from childhood, which I think most people have, like puppies in a cage, if you've been hurt, then you're obviously going to be likely perhaps to be likely to do things that aren't so cool, but that's because you've come to hate on yourself and hate on the world around you. Once we know that we are the center,
that light that we're all born with gets dimmed down and dulled down. And this is exactly why I'm trying really hard. I'm doing teacher training at Canterbury Christ, and then I was thinking to go over to Australia and teach over there, but for maybe 5 or 6 years, because I'm someone that comes from nothing. I don't have, Daddy, can you give me £5,000? Mummy, I need that. I have to do everything on my own. So one day I would like to live off the land and like build a house in Bali and just work with the children there, but just work because I want to, not because I have to get up at a time and it's for a click and a top and a boom and this letter, that letter, that blah blah blah. I've had enough of the Western countries. I used to live in Thailand before and teach English, and I was working, but it's such a more spiritual pace of life. I went to the Buddhist temples. I felt so at one with myself, and I just need my teacher's qualifications. I have to utilize the resources from this country to then uproot me, take me to. But I'm one with the whole world. At first, I was, is Australia going to be racist? But then I thought, what is racist? If I meet a few dickheads, they're the lower vibrational. I'm sure I could find some lovely people there.
You should be
Higher
a flat earther.
vibration.
You want to meet dickheads, you should be a flat earther. I get a lot of that. So no, have a beautiful life, but know what you are. You know, I'm sure you already do. I'm not trying to tell you stuff you don't already know.
No,
but
it's
if you
nice
know-
talking. It's nice listening to you. You're making me feel better because I was having quite an emotional day today where I was getting stressed out about like the niggly things at work, and you know when you're just kind of over worrying. And then I was cried at work, and but then I'm coming home. I was like, let me walk home. But then I just seen you guys talking, so I thought come and have a listen. But I like what you're saying. Thank you.
That's for you, sister, and I hope you have a great career.
Thank
and find
you.
your way to the land and to nature, because you should be one with nature. That's your natural calling. You know?
Thank you.
We know that taking a mama elephant out of the nature and putting her in the zoo is not good for her, and I believe that mankind has been put into a zoo, and we can free ourselves. Oh, thank you. My throat is so dry. Thank you.
Stay hydrated. Thank you. It's nice to meet you. What's your name?
Dave.
Dave.
You can have a hug. My YouTube channel's on that flyer.
I'll watch. Thank you.
All the best.
Evie, add me up.
I'm gonna
She's got
call
my
you
Insta.
when we all have,
Yeah.
when we're all in break. We're gonna FaceTime you on Instagram.
Go ahead.
You
Go
can
ahead.
film it, do whatever you want.
We're gonna FaceTime you at school break.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, no worries.
Small question.
Yeah.
Why do you not just
Study all the religions. They're all talking about the
train you as a pilot and just go like out to Earth?
I've got a friend who's an aircraft pilot, a passenger aircraft pilot. You're being rude. Aircraft pilot, and he's 8 years. He said, I don't fly for curvature. We do not fly on a ball. We fly level.
But
Plane is level.
I know it's not completely 100% a ball, but it's also not.
Either it is a ball or it's not.
No,
It might be slightly misshapen in your model.
but it's also not completely like this.
Oh no, because the continent, the mountains and all that, but it's the same sea level. The mountains, Everest, Kilimanjaro, they all stick up by 7,000 meters or whatever, but the sea level for England is the same on the east coast and the west coast. Same for Africa. There's one sea level there, but water must be in a container. If the container is broken, the water will spill. You cannot put the water on the outside of the container; it'll fall down. So we say it must be inside. We must live inside the container. Take my flyer. Take my flyer.
Find out for yourself.
See
Don't
that?
believe me.
Can
Don't
I
believe
have
me.
Can I have one?
Yeah.
Find
Thank
out
you.
for yourself.
Yeah.
They're always deleting
my
stuff from YouTube. There's a reason.
The Earth is round. You will find out. It's round.
Yeah, like a table.
Yeah. No, no.
Like a table is round. A frisbee. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cool. Hey guys.
What's this about?
This is about me calling out the government again and showing, hey, they're lying to us about where we live, who we are, what we're meant to be doing here. Are you guys Islamic? Muslim?
He is.
Salam alaikum. I had Iraqi refugees live with me in Cape Town in 1993-94. So I love everybody, but I understand a little bit about Islam. I also know that in Islam, the Quran teaches that if you want to find God, if God is closer to you than the jugular vein in your neck.
Yes.
Yes.
He knows.
Yes. And not only that, we say in the Christian thing that the temple is here. This is your temple, and I think that
Right
God
here.
resides within each of us. But also in the Quran, it says that the sun and the moon are lights that travel over the earth.
Yes.
Move over the earth, not that the earth is moving underneath them. And the same is true in Genesis. In Genesis, it says the same, that they daylight and a nightlight. One rules the night, one rules the day.
Yes.
And they're small lights that God created on day 4. In science, they tell you that it was created first, the sun, and then the earth comes after that, 4 million billion years later. So we're being taught an inversion of whatever God is, because I don't have a claim about God. I don't use Allah, I don't use God, I know these names, and I honor the creator, the source of everything. But I think the source is in each of us. I
Yes.
took ayahuasca in 2015, and in that experience, I went from atheist to a knower of God in 6 minutes, 7 minutes.
Yep.
And I was connected to my higher self, which is an eternal being. I lost all fear of death, and I realized that I never die. That this incarnation, this avatar that I'm standing in today, is just here on a short journey. And when
It's a short trip. It's a temporal.
And when it ends, it'll be like waking from a dream. And you go back, and everyone will go, "Oh, you're back. How was Earth this time?"
That was crazy.
But usurpers or Satan or something is operating here to hide the truth of that
Absolutely.
from who you are. And in order to do that, they've created religions. They've created the science of Big Bang Catholics,
Yeah.
and also that you come from monkeys, or we come from monkeys, and that we evolved, not that there was a creator who said, you know what, I'm going to come and experience myself, be in myself, experience myself in the form of you and you. And you.
In a god or?
I think that there is a creator. I think that if there's a man with a beard, I don't think so. But I think that there is a consciousness, a higher consciousness of infinite love. Infinite love.
Absolutely.
Sorry?
Simulation,
because Elon Musk, because he said it years ago, I was like, maybe not. But I think there's a possibility. When I took the DMT, right, it was 6-7 minutes. I didn't know what I was getting into, the spirit molecule. But for 6 or 7 minutes, I could not see anything material, but I could recognize it all as stone, trees, water, all of that. I'm looking around me and it's all light. It's all just,
it's all emanating.
It's all light. Frequency just pulsing, the tree, the plants pulsing. You could say that, but I've done lots of different things, and it wasn't like it was hallucinating and going wild. It was like I can still see the fronds of that plant, but I can see the light moving through it. My friend who was taking me through the ayahuasca experience, I took his hand because initially it was very frightening, and I took his hand, and he looked like a being of light. It was like, what the fuck are you? I put my hand up, I'm like, what are you? Because he didn't look like his eyes were his, but his body was like this different body or his different face. Anyway, so I think that we are all, like Tesla said, frequency. If you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think
Energy, vibration, and frequency.
Yeah.
Precisely.
3, 6, and 9, and it's this frequency that we are emanating, whether it's as a projection through me that I see you, that you are a vibration and a frequency that I'm interpreting as this young man.
Yeah.
Are you a material being that's physical matter? I'm interpreting that as physical matter, but I think actually at the esoteric level we are just light. But we are carrying a scintilla of Creator, God, and we are meant to be the Creator here. We are meant to be like the micro within the macro. Like the Russian nested dolls, the Mutishka.
I am in the Father, and the Father is in me, as Christ would put it. But we're in the micro, and the macro, and the macro is within us.
Exactly. And so I think that we are the small within the large. Like if we were inside your belly and we were microorganisms inside your belly having this conversation, it'd be like, we're part of him, but now are we doing good for him or are we actually harming him? Is your microbiome doing you good or is it unhealthy? So, in a lot of people's lives we're being unhealthy. We're maybe harming the micro or the macrobiome by some of the things that we do. I accept that. However, it is a self-healing. Your body's a self-healing thing. You can go on a bender tonight and in 3 days' time your body would have kind of healed itself, repaired some of the damage and be back on your way. Yes, you can't do that every night because your body is not going to recover infinitely into the distance. Same with the earth. You can spill a bit of oil this time, but don't do it every day because it's going to damage the biome. Hello there.
Sorry to interrupt you. I don't want to be rude and interrupt. We've had a report of a disturbance. The allegation being that whilst you were trying to speak, which is your right to have a free speech, I'm not impeding on that. We've had an allegation that whilst you were trying to speak to somebody about all this stuff, that you shouted at somebody when they dismissed what you were trying to say. So I've just come to ask you if that did happen, and I'm not saying whether it did or it didn't, but if that did happen, can you please refrain from doing that and just treat everybody with respect and dignity? And that's it. Now, can I leave that with you? Is that all right?
Yeah.
Did you shout at people?
I may have raised my voice. I'm a bit of a village crier, really, a town crier. Now, there have been some, and it's all live on YouTube, so whatever I'm saying, I would want to be able to verify that.
Yeah.
But I think the incident that you're referring to would be someone who was quite rude to me.
Okay.
And that might have been picked up on my audio. It might not have been. But I do get quite a lot of, unfortunately, trying to be the outsider saying, hey, listen, you've got something to look at. I do get abuse. Quite a lot of abuse. I've had a lady up there in the window open their window there and call all sorts of names out at me. And rude swearing at me. Now, no one here, and it'll all be on my, I do not swear.
Haven't seen him being
I do not swear.
And I'm not here to point. The people that have made the complaint don't want me to take any further action other than just to speak to you. And I thought it was only fair to give you the right to reply. So that's what I'm doing. I'm not accusing you of anything, and I'm certainly not trying to take the matter any further. I just wanted to say what I said and then listen to any response that you might have. So that's all. And can I ask a question?
Yes.
If the world's flat, and I'm not giving an opinion because I'm completely neutral in this matter. If the world's flat, what stops you falling off the edge?
See, the idea of the flat, I put this on my flyer here, is that this pancake idea and outer space, all of that needs to be brought into question. The pancake thing that we were all given at 6, 7 years old, that ships would fall off the edge and so on. That is a psychological operation too. So I think that I say to people, look into nature, and what you see is spheres, but the fruit is on the inside of the sphere, not on the outside of the skin. So we live inside of a sphere that is contained.
Okay.
So in the Hebrew cosmology, and all ancient Incas, the Mayans, the Egyptians, they all believed that we had a roof, and that we lived inside of an Eden project, if you like.
Okay.
And we're contained in that, and the atmosphere and so on is only under pressure because of the only because of the pressure.
So like a Truman Show, eventually you'll get to the wall or the edge.
Yes. Look into Admiral Byrd. Admiral Byrd, you can look into him. He talks about getting to the edge. Admiral Byrd is a very famous American military guy, and he did 3 explorations down there over 15 years with 5,000 men. And when he comes back in 1956, he says, "I found land bigger than America." He says it's on TV. It's still on YouTube. You can see the video. And his son released his diaries, and he claims to have found land with people and all that. There is an Antarctic treaty, which none of us get taught about, but it was signed in the year after he made that claim. He dies, and an Antarctic treaty is signed by all the developed countries, and it's maintained today and never broken. And that is that you and I cannot go below the 60th parallel without permission or government escort. So the large swathe of the earth that we believe we are able to travel on is off limits to us, and none of the oil companies, Shell and BP and so on, ever ask if they can go and have some of that oil very much and the resources that he claimed, Admiral Byrd. He got 3 ticker tapes through New York, so he's a very famous guy. And he claims there's all this stuff there. Now, other people have said that they've come across things. There are tantalizing stories of there being, we know that Antarctica is meant to be highest mountains and ridges of ice and so on. So in the theory that, these are the old flight routes from the map of the air map of the world from the 1940s and 50s. And this is the United Nations logo, by the way. And so these are how flights could work on a flat Earth. But this is what we think might be suggested. What might be around the whole rim is the perimeter is that it's frozen because the heat source, which is the sun, I'm theorizing, that the sun is traveling around the equator and it's too far away from the edge to melt it. So at the extremities of where the heat source is, things break down or become super cold.
These are the things that you're saying when you're talking out loud to people, and which is eliciting the rudeness from people.
Yeah, because people don't want to.
Because it's controversial.
Because people don't want to travel. Because I'm saying gravity is just a theory. With everything that I believed in until I was 47, that water is stuck to the ball, and the Nile is going 3,000 kilometers over the ball and so on. I believed all of those things just because I was taught it when I was young, and I just continued to accept that. So I'm saying to people, no, gravity is a belief. It's all buoyancy. Things either float, like the helium balloon, the hot air balloon, they either float because they're in this medium, or the football would fall here, but in a swimming pool, of course it would float, and it would want to go back to its natural buoyancy. So that's what we see with gas and with liquid, is that this buoyancy. We always say this experiment is quite famous, where you can put all different objects into this mixture here, and things will float at their own level of buoyancy. And so that's all. If I made that test tube 1,000,000 or 1,000 kilometers wide, I would still have the same principles of things are settling in strata at levels, diving or going up into the upper stratosphere. I know pilot friends who know that they're not allowing for any curvature. We try to measure this curvature of the water and so on. So I'm just challenging these things with people, and because we have been indoctrinated since we were all young to say, this is how it works, this is where you live, and this is principally, this is my main reason, this is who you are, because I have no religion to say, but I am saying to people that I think that there is a creator, and that creator resides in you, resides in each of us. And that's really the root of my message, is that we are all one, and we shouldn't be divided by our religious or national or whatever, because these things are programs that have been layered on us to try and control us, maybe. And all I'm saying
I don't want to be rude. I've got to go to my next call now, but I appreciate you taking the time to tell me what you've been telling other people about, because now I can update the report to say that I think a disturbance was a an exaggeration of what's gone on. But in future, if you get people giving you abuse, rather than giving abuse back, and then that eliciting,
no, you're right.
if that elicits a call to the police, and then a policeman has to turn up and talk to you, if you get abuse, then call us and let us deal with that, rather than giving abuse back.
Yeah, I
maybe.
mean, people call me names all the time, you know, and it's just part of
report
the
that if it
the
happens
thing.
and let us deal with it.
You know what? It's like if I was stepping out of a religion, people around me would say, "Hey, you're crazy, man," and call me all sorts of names. So I know that's part of the. I travel around the country and do this part of it. So. You know, and I was a little loud, but a bit more theatrical, and I'm never never saying to someone, because I know that if I harm you, I'm harming God and myself. I actually, and in that game of reality, or that version of reality, that harm I do to you is harm I do to myself, and I try and conduct myself in that way. Well, sometimes people are that rude that I'm like, you know what, I'm going to tell you off. Not to swear at them, but just to say, hey, all you're believing in is this idea of this and this and this. I'm not trying to force anyone. Just say, hey, just go and look at the word, research it yourself. Do you want my...
I don't want to be rude, but I don't want to, because I'm completely neutral in all of this.
You must stay
I
neutral.
wanted to,
Keep it over mind, brother.
I wanted to get an understanding of what you were preaching, for want of a better word. So now I have. So I'll update the report to say that there's no further police action needed, and I wish you well. Have a good day. Nice to meet you. Take care.
Are you trying to say the world's flat?
I'm trying to say that we live inside of a terrarium, and the water, the sea level, is the same across the earth. So if you travel in the Himalayas, or if you travel anywhere, let's just say we go from here, the east coast of England, to the west coast of England.
Well, I think we live in a box, and the stars are the holes poked through on the outer realm.
So how do you come up with that theory?
Because it's really far-fetched, actually.
I know what we're all trained to believe. I always believed the same stuff for most of my life, and I used to snigger at flat earthers, by the way. So for me, it's almost like, and in fact, I raised my older children at university level on Darwinism. I told them that they were evolved apes, and that 50,000 years ago we came out of Africa. I'm quite well researched. But then I realized 8 years ago that there's a formula for curvature on this globe, and that formula cannot be measured for. That
What's
cannot
curvature?
Well, if you played with the football before, I assume.
Yeah.
A ball, a sphere, is always bending in every direction.
Yeah.
It's always bending. That's a matter of fact. You can't deny that. And no, it doesn't matter because you make it so big that it's somehow not, but it's a ball. It's a ball, and that ball has got to have bend to it. They call it curvature. So if you look at spherical trigonometry, which is what the globe proponents offer us, they say this is the amount of curvature you should experience over 1 mile, 10 miles, 100 miles. And I lived up by the sea as a kid, and I knew that I'd seen things over distances that belied that formula. So when I saw that formula 8 years ago, I thought, oh, hang on a minute, maybe this flat earth thing is true.
Is that how you use it? That's what I was going to say.
You can see France, from England.
Is that meant to happen?
No. In fact, you can see all of the White Cliffs of Dover from France on a clear day. They're 300 feet tall, but according to this formula, there's more than 300 feet of earth water curvature in between England and France. Before we skip on to that, think about that.
Eiffel Tower.
Because of, well, there's two things in play there. One, there's atmosphere that you're looking through, which occludes things. So on a clear day, you can see further than on a cloudy day. Right? The other thing is that things shrink in the distance. That's just the way the train is going away from you. It's getting smaller and smaller. So that's called the inverse square law. You're like, every time you double the distance away from the Eiffel Tower, it'll halve in size. As you drive away from Paris, eventually it'll be the last thing that you can see, but it's only the top of it that you can see. And then eventually it's gone from your view. But that doesn't mean that France is curved. We can take, there's a salt pan in South America where they call it like the world's largest mirror. And when it rains on it, it's so level that you can see for hundreds of thousands of kilometers. You can't see that far, but for 100,000 square kilometers, you've got this level mirror. And that you can walk away on that and disappear over what seems to be a curvature. But we know, same with the tennis court. You can take any long field, put your head on the ground and get your friend to walk away. And the first thing you'll see lose is their feet. The last thing you'll see of him is his head. That's the way that angular resolution and perspective work on a flat Earth. The idea that it's curving around a globe has been debunked by long-range photography, where the ship has gone over the curvature. We've then taken the P900 or P1000 Nikon camera, zoomed it 83 times, and bang, that ship's back in view for another 20, 30 minutes when you said it's already gone over the curvature. So it's around perspective, angular resolution, and the atmosphere. These things occlude what you see. Now, I've watched a ship leave a harbour in the Mediterranean.
Can I tell you about my box theory now?
I like your box theory. But I think that we don't see a lot of boxes in nature. What we see more in nature are apples and oranges. So I
But
say
if,
we
if
live
you're
inside
saying
of a
this is
sphere.
flat, then boxes are made of flat sides.
They are.
And they're made out
Yeah.
of cardboard.
Oh, so it links up. No, it links up what
Which
you're saying.
then again is flat.
Yeah, well, there is a. I mean, the Freemasons have this square and compass idea that it might be all circles and squares, and that it could be that we're in a four-cornered system that is like a box. I wouldn't argue with that, but obviously we're talking theoretical here.
Wait, so if we're in a circle, what is the sky?
What is the sky?
Yeah, like what is that if we're inside a circle?
We're inside of the ball, okay, but just like with this drink of yours, every time you flip it over, the water and the heavy stuff is going to the bottom, and above it is the atmosphere. So we live inside of a system in which the heavy stuff is settled to the bottom, and the light stuff is, and as you go up,
At the bottom.
and we're on the midpoint. So
The
we've got.
more we build, are we going lower?
Sorry.
The more things we build, the lower down we get.
I don't know about that. I mean, if you think about how heavy the continents must be, if it was like a boat and you could slowly push it down, possibly. I mean, we have to admit that our sea levels have changed dramatically. You know, you could walk to England, France once upon a time, right? They admit that. They say that. In fact, if you've been to a town in Norfolk where there's a whole village in the sea, and you only see the roofs of the village at low tide. So we know for sure, and there's a pyramid in Japan off the sea. So we know for sure that there are things underwater that couldn't have been built under there, but that the sea level must have changed dramatically over time. So yeah, I think it's possible that the level goes up and down. But you see, like this system of yours, if I push on that, if I squeeze on it, I might be able to get the pressure such that the level goes slightly up and down. And if it goes up and down by 1 nanometer there, and if you had to expand it up into the earth, we could be talking about hundreds of meters of difference of height.
So are we going to drown?
No. So I want you to know something, because it's hard to hear, but I was an atheist 8 years ago. I didn't believe in any shit. I thought that there was going to be life on Mars and all of that. I believed all of it. But now I know that we are from a creator. There is a creator, but that creator's essence is in each of us individually, that we are all actually the emanation of the creator. I don't have a religion, so I just think that whatever God is, it's expressing itself on this earth plane as you three, and me, and all of us. But the system doesn't want you to know that. Religion doesn't want you to know that. Science doesn't want you. They want you to think that you're just an evolved monkey and lucky to be here, and you need a government to protect you. When you don't, you should be the master of your own universe, not somebody else's slave.
Yeah.
Take my flyer.
I've got one.
Cool. Well, it's hard to hear, and you can only work this out for yourself. I had to work this out for myself. I'm not trying to convince you that the Earth is not a globe. I'm just trying to tell you that we can't measure curvature, this thing of curvature. We cannot measure it. National Geographic will tell you, oh, we did a laser experiment and we've somehow proved curvature. No, we can't prove curvature. Can we prove that we're spinning? Apparently not. According to Einstein, there's no experiment that we'll be able to devise that will prove us to be spinning.
So is science fake?
Science fake, no. So we know that in this drink of his, when we open the top, there would be an equalization of pressure, yeah? That's second law of thermodynamics. So I say that that's true, and I think that our Earth must be like that. If I said, yeah, I've got a boiling pot of water, at what temperature is it going to turn to steam? You'd say, oh, about 100 degrees centigrade, depending on my pressure, depending on the height I am. What about when I want to freeze it? Well, you'd say get it to 0 centigrade, yeah? And that would freeze water. That's good science, because you and I can test that at home for ourselves. But if I have to be told that, no, we've got a thing up in space that's already proven that and you don't have to see that's you believing in the government's propaganda machine, the stuff that you can never test for yourself. That doesn't mean that I think that rocket scientists and satellite engineers are lying, but I do believe that most satellites are either on balloons, on helium balloons, and most of our technology or data goes through the ground tower and through undersea cables. The industry admits that 98 or 99% of all data is undersea cable. Satellites, if you Google satellites in space, you will find that they're all CGI. All satellites in space are simply, when you see it, they're just CGI. Yes, sir.
So the NASA is uttering false.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Yes, sir. I used to believe NASA. I even went to one of their space centers in Canterbury.
They have done many experiments in the moon and the Earth.
The moon landing, yeah. You know what? They went to the moon 6 times, and they didn't take a photo of the Earth for the first 5 missions. Now, if you've gone to the moon and you're the first man to land on the moon, one of the first things you want to do is get a selfie with the Earth behind you, right? They didn't do that. But when they came back from the moon landing, Neil Armstrong, Buzz,
If the moon is not moving, the sun is moving.
The sun and the moon are moving. They're small, but they're moving through our sky every day. Yes, like the Quran says, like the Bible says, that the sun and the moon are independent lights. One for the day, one for the night. But they're independent. I think one's feminine, one's masculine, but that's conjecture. So, but they're small lights and they rise. You know how the airplane, when it comes towards you, the airplane comes towards you, appears to be rising, but it's not. It's at cruising altitude. It's just perspective makes it look like it's coming up, and then it's going down either side. But it's still in the same flight. You see, that's how the light works. It comes towards you, it rises up, and then it goes down and it sets. And the further it can get away, so you see it dropping in towards the sea. Like you think the clouds, same. The clouds look like they're going in the sea, but they're not. It's just perspective in the distance.
What do you think of Kyrie Irving apologising for thinking the earth was flat?
Yeah, he was put under a lot of pressure to say that.
But he's not the type to apologise.
No, much respect to Kyrie Irving.
You spoke Kyrie Irving.
Yeah. Much respect, Kyrie. And he came out in like 2017.
Saying, I'm sorry.
Yeah. But I can assure you, I mean, I've seen the man talk. I know for sure that he'd been put under pressure.
Kyrie,
Kyrie's the man. He's
Kyrie's
cool,
my
man.
goal. Kyrie's my goal.
Okay. Respect Kyrie. Much respect Kyrie Irving. Yeah, well, South African accent, born in England.
I'm South African. Born in Canada, raised up in South Africa.
Oh, really?
Where were you from?
Durban.
Yeah, I'm from Cape Town.
Okay, I was there just a year ago. I was brought up by the sea. My dad was in Durban Harbour. He was the pilot at Durban Harbour. So I grew up by the sea. And when I heard the formula for curvature of Earth, I was like, shit, I've seen up Umhlanga rocks and further places up there close that should not be visible if the Earth is a ball. And that was the first thing that really made me think, oh, hang on, I've got to go look at this all again. Now I can't find it. We cannot prove that we are moving, sir. The lights are moving, yes, but we cannot prove we're moving.
Now NASA says there's a crack in the sun. Is it true?
Tracking the sun.
Cracking the sun.
Good luck. Tracking the sun. No. See, the sun is a light. So the sun, not a fireball that's traveling 93 million miles through cold vacuum of space and then warming up when it hits our atmosphere. That doesn't make any sense to me anymore. I think that we are the expression of God in this experience, but they don't want us to know that. They want us to be in our religions or in our science belief systems. How are you guys doing it?
Amazing.
I lost my cat.
We're good. I got a dress to pick up. We can worry about the world of today.
We are photons. We have photons. We're emitting them right now. It's just we can't see them. So, okay, great question. So, the moon, there's been studies that have been shown that the moon has its own light. We're told that
yes,
I met
him today.
Sun, right?
He's seen my flies and like, I know this. I know this, and he's doing a great job.
The moon's light has been concentrated through a magnifying glass.
You've got a fly, right?
I didn't get a fly.
Temperature of water.
Yeah, much respect. He was the biggest thing for Flat Earth when he first came out.
Kyrie, bro, he got blackballed out of the league. Top 75.
Blackballed, but you know, much respect because he must have taken so much grief. You know, he's had other. I've seen a few press conferences with him and talk about it. You know,
bro, they don't like it because he talks the truth.
Yeah,
they call him crazy.
Yeah, but you see, he wouldn't do any of this stuff. Wouldn't take any of that because he knows.
You know as well. I
lost my last YouTube. I lost my YouTube channel for telling the South Africans that I was there in 2021. I was like, guys, you've got to stay away from all this. They took my YouTube channel.
See, they blame Kyrie, but now it turns out he was right.
Yeah.
It's in court. He was right.
Yeah, he was right.
They know.
So, but that event actually has been one of the biggest wake-up events where a lot of people have gone, hey, whoa. What's going on here? That 200 countries all locked down at the same time. And bad evidence. Bad evidence. Made you a prisoner. Made you do things against your body. This is against God. So I say that people must wake up because they're going to continue hurting God's creation, which is us.
What religion are you?
I don't hold one.
Okay.
I think, like I said, my fly there, I said Allah, the merciful, most merciful in the back there. You see, I don't want to kind of make it about one name for God because God is all. Oh,
I hear
look
it.
at
I hear it.
arms, leg, arm, head. We are alive. We are all. But we are the macro. We are the micro versus the macro. Some say the 7 nested Russian dolls is a good example. Where we're the small doll, and then there's 7 levels to get to Allah, to all God. Yes.
Understood.
Yes. Questions?
I have a question.
Question, yes.
Have you gone through, considering that you are the ones experiencing cognitive dissonance?
I have considered that. Have you?
What? Of course. The government are liars. We all know this. But what is the point of lying about this?
Well, to minimize you, actually. I mean, I think some people say it's about the extra Earth. There's extra continents that they're hiding from us. But to make us slaves like we are, and to make you subject yourself, and to see how many people put on the face nappy in 2020. Hey? How many people do that? They're not their own master anymore. So like I say in this file here, the idea is either you're going to become a servant or a master for yourself, not to have somebody else master over you, whether it be government, whether it be whatever. So I think it's about diminishing
We need to
whatever
be free
God's
like the
creation
cavemen
is.
were.
I mean, I'm not even sure, to be honest with you, I'm not even sure if the caveman story is true. If I can offer you this, because you sound quite open-minded, I think that the nose flood story is much more recent. That this place that we live in gets washed every 500 years or something, and that the survivors of that go and live in caves. But there was higher cultures. You see this cathedral here?
Yeah.
800 years old? 800 years old? Built by people with horse and cart? I don't think so. People who built that had high culture. People who made the Stradivarius violin, Mozart, all of that had high culture. We do not have that now. We've lost that. We have been devolved. We are not as high as we once were.
Hey, my brother, give me a digger and like a month, and I'll make one of them.
But they didn't have diggers, bro.
Well, they didn't.
They didn't have
diggers. Not only
laser
that.
precision.
Yeah, they didn't have that. They didn't have non-permeable barriers, which today they would create a bathtub and they would put the building in the bathtub because the water they would be trying to push in there. And then when you think about all these, like there's millions of streets in London and all around the world. I've traveled to see these places where they've got like a whole street. You have to think that that whole street had to be dug out at the same time, and all those foundings 2 and 3 stories below the ground. They wouldn't do that if they were just digging out and there were so few people.
Today. They can't do that today.
No, they can't.
do that today.
No, good luck.
Hey, my friend.
Build it and then tell me, all right?
If there's one thing you should be in real life, it's fucking for real, okay? You need to get on it.
Once you build it, I'll believe you, all right?
And those pyramids, hey, they line up with like 3 stars, and they have done for thousands of years. Then there's pyramids in other places in the world that we don't get taught about in school, like in Japan, in South America, Pakistan. There's pyramids all over the world that are apparently the Chinese try to build a 1/6 scale size of Giza, the biggest one, and they failed. They gave up on that, right? So we also tried. The Russians tried to dig.
You know what the 7th biggest pyramid in the world is?
What?
It's a fishing shop that America made because they wanted to make a pyramid.
Okay, I don't really know.
Look it up.
But no, well, I mean,
Bosnian pyramids.
The Bosnian pyramids, there's Bosnian pyramids. They're huge. There's pyramids in this country,
America made one for a fishing shop, right?
They're under
I'm just
dirt.
saying.
Yeah.
But
I'm open-minded. You should be open-minded.
Okay. Well, I mean, but I'd like to see that. But the thing is, that the mainstream doesn't get taught about these other pyramids that actually seem to be emerging. Researchers on the ground are going, look at this building or look at this mound, and how is the shape of it?
And some of them are 90 ton. Like for example, in Jordan.
The stones.
Yeah, the stones, like laser precision cut. They were cut out of the quarries. It was Göbekli Tepe. Man knows exactly. So these stones, they were somehow moved. Right, and we don't know exactly how. We do see UFOs in the sky. So somebody's got anti-gravity tech. Someone's got anti-gravity tech. All right. So we know that there's science beyond what it is that we're being told or taught. Okay, that goes well beyond typical
It's been
flight.
wonderful speaking to you, but I'm getting mad.
Hey, did I give you a flyer?
I'll take a flyer.
Take a flyer, guys. Keep an open mind because I've got.
Don't believe us. Go do your own research.
But take this one on electromagnetic.
Why is this important? Like, what makes it
Because
important enough to you?
Because for me, it's important because as soon as you realize that the firmament is real, that there is a giant.
Are you guys on right now?
You realize.
I am
this
here,
book
but
is
I've lost my chat.
absolutely accurate.
Oh, it's back.
All right, because it tells in
I
the
can't
book
tell
of
you how many people are
Revelations,
doing
which we're living through right now.
A million people.
Yeah, you know what? This subject is really shadow banned. And my last channel, I was in South Africa a year ago, telling them to stay away from the needle treatment, the love juice from the government.
Look up the
They took away my channel. I was out there talking to the people.
Take it easy.
Yeah, the police in South Africa forced me off the beach physically for trying to tell people what's going on.
Yeah, it's like as soon as like you differ from the mainstream opinion, they're trying to get you, you know.
Yeah. So I go out and try and tell people because this is your experience, but evil prospers when good men do nothing. And I've realized something. I'm not a great, but I want to get out.
Yeah, the thing is, you guys may believe in this. If people don't believe, I mean, you can have like a civil discourse.
Yeah, I'm a seed sower.
Agree to disagree.
I'm a seed sower. You know, I hope that I sow a seed, and then in a year's time, 5 years time, whatever, something I said makes sense, and you go, hey, that guy was saying maybe I shouldn't be trusting what I've been told by the government. I need to go and look at that one thing again. And the last 3 years have done that for a lot of people who've gone, hey, whoa. You know, the government are maybe not on our side, you know, the way they treated us.
People need to know that the government are not there for like their best interest. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, they're just there to...
Well, govern the mind, control the mind, that's what they're here to do. But as I say to people, that if God is walking in you, if you are the spark of God, or you carry the light of God, then you should have no master. You should be your own master. Yes, you want to stand upright. You're not going to be a bad God, right? But there should be no one mastering you.
Yeah,
like
because everybody would be regulated. They wouldn't need to be like.
You take care of you take care of your brothers and sisters around you, and you don't work for the corporation that's going to sell poison to your cousin.
Because everything they do is to make money. So everything that's going to be profitable to them, they're going to do it.
But money's the grease that makes the system work. Because you see, if you and me, like we need some money, right? So we might go and take that job because we need the money to be fair. And there's a little bit of kudos that comes with that. Now you can wear a suit and tie and get a fancy car. Now you've got a holiday and a home and all this sort of stuff. And soon enough, you are, putting needles in people because
they make it super appealing. Now you work for the corporation. They'll be like, oh, if you don't get the love juice, you don't get the love juice, you can't work for it. Like, you can't work for them.
Anthony Fauci's love juice. Tony Fauci, he was the guy pushing it.
Fauci,
World Economic Forum. He was pushing it and so on. But then you go and do these things, and you will harm yourself, and you will harm your brother. I was in South Africa, and black guys were hitting on black guys, beating on them because they were not covering their face. You see, and I'm like, how is this happening that you guys are doing this to yourself?
Like how you guys fought against each other because of that virus that you came in.
Mind virus.
It's just they control the mind, and people just believe everything they see. Everything they see in the media.
Yes.
That's why the media is so powerful.
Yes. Media to control the mind as well. Anyway, I've got to go as well, but it's been nice talking to you, and I wish you a good life, young man. My name's Dave.
Warren.
All right.
You have to know about Kyrie.
I'll inform him. Yeah, I'll inform him.
I've got to tell him now.
The physics of the ball curvature.
These guys are concerned you don't know Kyrie Irving. He came out on Flat Earth. He's a basketball top
Best
player.
point guard in the world.
Best point guard. And he came out in 2017, 16, and talked about Flat Earth.
Think Steph Curry, the
legend.
the emotion.
We need to show the highlights.
Please show Kyrie's highlights.
He's a big Kyrie fan.
Kyrie, the first gravity. That is the first gravity.
We're not alone.
He does when he jumps. Or devise buoyancy.
He's so good. They have an
Put it on full screen.
They have an hour of his plays, man.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I think LeBron James
my friend, we need a chat.
Yes. Send me an email.
Yeah, or let me take your number or something.